January 1st of 2026. Obviously, for electoral purposes, that's a must one way or the other. And in terms of the provincial process that we've already been involved in, where does this leave that? I think that the answer is that once we got through all of the work together, then we can go back to the folks at the province. In terms of sorry, next slide. I don't have a clicker, I don't think. In terms of the key principles, Your Worship, members of council, we have a commitment to environmental sustainability, and we've been investing in that over the years. And part of the conversation we've been having is a confirmation of your mayor and to what we are referring to right now in terms of the Little Lake Conservation Trust. But as you'll see later, it's a lot broader than that. To ensure the long-term preservation and protection of land, both in the city of Barrie and throughout the area. We are looking to secure future employment land for the city of Barrie. That is the core premise of our discussion. Supporting long-term economic development for both Springwater and the city of Barrie. Strengthening municipal collaboration between Barrie and Springwater going forward, and providing mutual benefits to both municipalities. Next slide, please. In terms of what we are looking at, it's the city of Barrie to provide water and wastewater servicing to an area that you'll see in the next slide. But just remember, the city is to provide the servicing to the yellow area on the map, which would remain in Springwater. And in return, we'd be looking at a boundary change, which would be identified in blue. So the blue area would go into the city of Barrie. Development charges would be collected in full to fund infrastructure. Compensation is to reflect the St. Thomas and Central Elgin boundary agreement, which is something I've heard said both around this council table as well as through the municipality of Oro-Medonte. The buffer zone, and this is something that I've asked for, which is to be established along the Barrie-Springwater current boundary to help ensure an appropriate transition between what exists and what could exist in the future. Next slide, please. So as you can see on this map, you have the yellow area. That main street going out there is Bayfield Street. On both sides, the city of Barrie would be providing servicing, which was a key item that was brought to us, and something that we believe that we can do very well. We have more than enough capacity in the area to be able to handle this, and certainly would be able to get going at least on the planning items day one. I believe that your council has actually looked at MZOs in this area and is supportive of a few of the proposals that have come forward. And certainly we don't have an issue with anything that we've seen for sure. The blue area is the area we would see a boundary change into the city of Barrie. There's a lot of this land is not good land. There's pieces of this land that, quite frankly, the city of Barrie isn't in need of when it comes to down Miller Drive. And we are certainly open to taking it because we provide service over there already, but it's not a must for us. Next slide, please. In terms of the additional principles, so Joint Economic Development Committee, a little more detail on this economic development piece, with investment in a dedicated economic development resource for Springwater Township, a collaborative approach to regional healthcare services. That means that what we have right now, what your residents use and what my residents use, is under major constraint and requiring additional land to be able to provide the healthcare services that our region needs. We have a healthcare center that was built for a city of 100,000, a surrounding area of 380,000. You now have 565,000 and 165,000 in the city of Barrie alone. Recreational access in Barrie for Springwater residents, including 500 waterfront parking passes for Springwater residents for 5 years. We have access to Barrie recreation programs and facilities to continue for an additional 5 years, where we'd be waiving the costs for both of these as part of a potential agreement. One of the things that the city of Barrie is asking for, and I want to highlight this because this is important to the city of Barrie, is the joint request to the Ontario Energy Board to align Electra's service boundary with this in the north end of the city here. As you'll know, Electra moved very, very quickly when we had the ice storm. We had Barrie back up in 24 hours inside of the Electra footprint. That did not hold true for our other utility that services the south end of the city of Barrie. And the city of Barrie is about an 8% owner of Electra. So we get good value out of that relationship and being able to both get services very quickly on the ground in the event of an emergency or an ice storm or tornado, which we have frequently. At the same time, it gets our folks back up really quickly. And so it's important for us that we do see with any boundary change, we see Electra's boundary change as well. And as I said before, the confirmation of the Mayor of Springwater on our Conservation Trust. Next slide, please. The agreement, in terms of next steps, would require approval from both municipalities. It would then require an approval by the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing. And as I said at the beginning, our tentative effective date would be January 1st, 2026. It's a smooth time in terms of end of fiscal years and start of fiscal years, as well as the pending election that's coming the following May. We would see it open up for people to put their names in. Finally, time allocated to finalize the implementation details and ensure a smooth transition. And I say that and left it for last in my speaking notes because the reality is there's a lot of details to work out. And what you're seeing in front of you today are the principles and the pillars that we believe it could work through. Before I cede the floor, Your Worship, if we go to the next slide. I've got a bigger copy for myself here. You'll see a map here. This is of the current city of Barrie. The north side is the township of Springwater. The area that's outlined in red is owned by the city of Barrie right now. These properties are pieces that we have accrued over, the last 100 years. And I want to point out to you the piece that's in Springwater. Piece is in Springwater right now. So you'll see that Barrie owns almost nothing, if not nothing, except for a little park inside of the city of Barrie. But what councils since 2001 have been doing is buying up the land around Little Lake to preserve it for the future. And what we had proposed 2 years ago was to turn that into a formal trust. We wanted to do that with Springwater and Oro-Medonte. That was not accepted as it stood. But we've now gone it alone, and our staff are working on the creation of it. I used a strong mayor directive about 3 or 4 weeks ago to start that process. And by the time we get to our budget in 2026 or budget deliberation in 2026, we will have the structure of that in place. I wanted to show you this isn't just Little Lake that we're talking about. We're also talking about, if you see Sunnydale Park, for those of you that know the area, Sunnydale Park, half of it, we've split it in half. Half of it is a park, will be kept as green space managed by the city of Barrie. The other half of it are trails, trees, dog park, and that would go into the trust. We also have the Ardagh Bluffs on there at the bottom left-hand side in Southwest Barrie. That portion of land is also going to go into, I think in total, we will end up in the thousands of acres going into this conservation trust on day one, much of which is around about 500, I think, acres is around Little Lake. The rest of it is inside of the city of Barrie. We're guessing about 1/4 of the total land contributed will be around Little Lake. That concludes my presentation, and certainly if you'd like me to stay for questions, I can. If not, I can head out.
No, thank you. just stay there for a couple minutes here. Thank you very much for the presentation. And before I do turn to council for any comments or questions, I just wanted to outline the process. So the process this evening is not to accept or deny this in principle, or it's to receive this as information so that we can begin this process together. This is going to be a long process, a thorough process, and a due process. So I think that tonight is simply receiving this so that our staff have the time and opportunity to do their diligence to work their way through this. After this meeting, we will be having special meetings of council, other meetings of council to ensure that this becomes before council as it evolves. Also scheduling a public open house to ensure that members of public have an opportunity to be heard. We will be tonight extending our question period through our procedural bylaw to make sure that we do have enough time to hear everyone, so it would not just be the submissions that were received. But at this time, we can turn to members of council if there's anything for our Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. It warms my heart to see so many residents here tonight. Thank you for coming. Thank you for paying attention. I think it's really important. This is an important topic. It's important that you get the correct information and that you engage and that we actually hear what you think. Thank you, Mayor Nuttall, for your presentation. I've got a couple of questions. If we could see the map, please, if it could come up. So I'm really pleased that this discussion has changed from a discussion about annexation to a discussion about a boundary change. I applaud our mayor for using strong mayor powers because annexation is something that happens to us. A boundary discussion, I think, gives us more input, and it helps us to avoid what's happened in previous boundary adjustments. For example, the most recent one in Innisfil. I think this is much better for us. And again, I applaud the courage of our mayor for using strong mayor powers. It's a shame that she had to do so to get this information public. Mayor Nuttall alluded to the fact that this has been going on for 2 years. I've been kind of in the dark, as other members of council have been, and I appreciate you coming tonight and having an opportunity to share this information. So with regards to the map, because I really haven't been involved with this and in the discussion, there's four. I really identify 4 areas on the map. One is the Miller area. Let's say that's number 1. Number 2 is the Wilson and Sunnydale area that's highlighted. 3 is the area that's highlighted in yellow. That's the Bayfield corridor. And 4 is the, let's say, Highway 11 zone. Could you just share with me how these areas ended up on this map and how this evolved and how the Wilson or the Bayfield Street area ended up in Springwater, in your opinion?
Mayor Nuttall?
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, the councillor, for the question. Our request initially was for down 93, as we refer to in Barrie, Penetanguishene Road, and then piece in Northwest Barrie, which is Sunnydale / Ferndale, which I think you refer to as Wilson. And that request was put forward. I think that I know there were presentations on it. I was presenting on it, and through the discussions with Springwater, there was a concern. Your Worship, am I allowed to? I don't know what the process is for confidential information from meetings we had or not. Am I allowed to speak freely or?
That would be my preference. I think that that's what the public wants. I do think that we do need to respect the facilitated process. So any information that is through the facilitated process, I do believe that we have made an agreement to keep that confidential, but any meetings leading up to the facilitated process, in my opinion.
Okay.
Thank you.
It was outlined by Springwater that the southwest portion there along Miller Drive was not something that really was a benefit to Springwater Township, that it was difficult to service. And I'm not talking about water and wastewater services, but rather cleaning the streets, snow, dust, getting out there if there was an issue that needed to be dealt with. And so I'm not going to say reluctantly because that's not fair, but we, in that process said, okay, sure, whatever. If that's a deal breaker for you, we already have street cleaners out there. We already have, snow clearance vehicles out there. And so we'll continue with that. And so that was probably a year and a half to 2 years ago. In the meeting was myself, my CAO, CAO, deputy mayor, and your mayor and deputy mayor were there. I think there was staff as well. And everyone kind of was okay. That's something that can benefit Springwater in an out of the box way. The piece on Bayfield Street was something that was brought forward pretty clearly on a need for Springwater to define what an entrance to Springwater looked like. I think Mayor Coughlin was the person speaking at the time, and I'm just going on memory. And that was something that we didn't understand, quite frankly, from the Barrie perspective. That you wanted services in order to be able to see the developments out in a way that would benefit Springwater, but also provide like that. This is a cultural change between the city of Barrie into the township of Springwater. I think we took us some time to wrap our heads around that, but certainly, as you can see, we got there. And then over on the 93 stuff, that was we were looking at maps, and I, quite frankly, it's hard to make as you can see from the other map, and I don't want to go over to it, but on the other map, you can see what City of Barrie owns. Like you can't really make a boundary of a city around what we own. You use roads to do that. When we were conversing on that, we're on 93. I believe at the time it was Deputy Mayor said, well, the first road you're dealing with is Partridge. And so that kind of identifies that portion of the what you refer to as the Highway 11 portion.
Follow on, then I have Deputy Cabral.
So I had a resident ask me to ask this question. So Highway 11 over in that corridor seems like a more natural boundary as opposed to Partridge. So you're saying that we kind of decided that Partridge was.
I'm saying that was what was put forward in the meeting. But what we were asking for, like right now, Highway 11 isn't really the boundary, is it? Right? Right now, the two boundary roads are Georgian Drive and Penetanguishene Road. And when you look at what we're trying to achieve, and I'm not speaking for Springwater, I don't expect Springwater folks to identify with what I'm saying, but from the city of Barrie's perspective, what we're trying to achieve is a corridor that can include industry. And this is an area that we've identified some great possibility. That's because we have servicing there. It's in the ground. For Springwater to get over there would be very, 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 very difficult. Most folks don't even know that Springwater's over there who live in Springwater, right? The boundary is hard to understand because one side's Oro, one side's Springwater, and then all of a sudden you get onto Georgian Drive, one side's Springwater, one side's Barrie, and then on Penetang, one side's Oro, one side's Barrie. So it just seemed like a natural place for us. You got lots of highway access, both on Duckworth Street as well as Penetanguishene Road. And obviously, the rest was, well, where does it go to,
It's a follow on.
That follow on, just the last question, and just the last question. So as you probably know, agriculture is really the fabric of our community, the backbone of our community. If I'm a farmer and you're speaking to me and I've got a little bit of anxiety about this, what would you say to me?
Mayor
If I can give you an example of a conversation that we've had a conversation with Mr. Cameron. And one of his concerns, there was a few concerns. In fact, there was 6 points on his notes that he had made for us. I believe the financial one bore a lot of weight. And so did the cultural one of being a farmer, being in agriculture, allowing that to continue for generations to the future. So I'm going to stick to those two main points. The first one, in terms of the financial, there was concern that the city would, come in and force somebody to develop land. That's not the case. If a landowner goes and decides that they want to rezone their land and put a site plan in place and all of those things, that's on them. That's not on the city. And we talked about what had happened over on Harvey Road, and where the biggest REIT in Canada, as far as I know, was had an approved site plan inside the city of Barrie and was still using it for agriculture in the center of our city, where we took away that ability to do that. But if you look at all of our Innisfil lands that came in, we've never encountered that before, nor would we ever put that on somebody who wants to continue with the agriculture. It is just not how we operate. I'm a big believer in the private ownership of land and landowners' rights. In terms of the financial side of that, the concern is, well, when you go and you say it's no longer used as agriculture, it's now used as something else. There's a tax implication for that in the case in Barrie. And I'm taking this head on because I just want to make sure that there's complete understanding of this. In the case of the city of Barrie, it went from, I think, somewhere in the neighborhood, and 7,000 to 110,000, Robert, something like that. And again, that's because we had an approved site plan for an industrial and residential complex on the side of the 400 that they had pushed through, not us. And so in the cases in Innisfil that came into Barrie, we respect it. Many, if not all, have decided to sell, and those were decisions that were made by those agriculture users with developers. The city of Barrie does not get involved in that type of stuff. The only time that we would buy land would be for public use.
Deputy Cabral?
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. And I didn't know we were allowed to speak about meetings that I was at, but I can tell you one thing for sure. I am not the one who pointed to Partridge Road and suggested that it go out that way. So that is for the record. Secondly, the one point that I did make is there is a piece of property on the map that I originally saw that you speak about, Mr. Cameron. Actually, it's a piece of property near where he is that an MZO came forward on back in 2020. I think 2 was the last time it came forward, and they were looking for an MZO there. And I specifically said that I wouldn't be able to support anything. I said that piece of property shouldn't even be on the map. Yet I see that that piece of property is back on the map again. So I just wanted to make that clear that I did not suggest any way, shape, or form that it should go over to Partridge Road. As a matter of fact, I was under the impression we were talking about cross-border servicing and asking for cross-border servicing, because at that time, the city of Barrie had a resolution in place. As a matter of fact, Mayor Nuttall, when you were councillor, I think you voted for it, to entertain cross-border servicing agreements. And apparently in December of this year, December 6th, that was removed through an indirect motion at City of Barrie Council. And at that time, it kind of took the legs out from what we had originally met for. But I do have some comments to make, and I would like the opportunity to do so. And I want to thank you for being here. This is without prejudice. I respect you very much. I respect Mr. Prowse. I respect Mr. Thompson. But I'm representing Springwater Township owners. So I'm speaking hopefully on their behalf, because the phone calls I've been getting are not very supportive of this at all. And this council was on a path, as was Oro-Medonte and the County of Simcoe, to follow a path, to get the information, to finish up with the study, to move ourselves forward so that when the day came, we would be able to have this negotiation, but we would be negotiating on what Barrie actually needs and what Springwater actually needs, Oro-Medonte and the county. So For that, I want to thank you once again, Mayor Nuttall and staff. And I'm going to take this moment to reflect on how we got to this point in time. Springwater Township has diligently followed the provincial facilitation process respecting the joint land needs study through agreement and in partnership with the County of Simcoe, Oro-Medonte, and of course the City of Barrie itself, with all parties contributing significant taxpayer dollars. In the next phase, I want to thank you because it appears that the City of Barrie has decided to pay for phase 3 on its own. So I do want to tell you that I appreciate that, and our taxpayers certainly do as well. The joint land needs analysis and study evaluated land requirements for the City of Barrie and the townships of Oro-Medonte and Springwater to accommodate growth to 2051. Springwater Council voted on December the 11th, 2024 to receive the Hempson report and agreed that the Township of Springwater would continue to engage with the Office of the Provincial Land and Development Facilitator, Hempson Consulting, and the City of Barrie, the Township of Oro-Medonte, and the County of Simcoe to develop a work plan for the analysis of options identified in the Joint Land Needs Analysis and Study. What were those options? One was to maintain municipal boundaries. The second was to adjust municipal boundaries or annexation lands to the City of Barrie. On January the 15th, there was a closed session meeting of Springwater Council on the City of Barrie boundary adjustment proposal with respect to the provincial facilitator update. The resolution on rising from that, moved by Councillor Garwood and seconded by Councillor Alexander, was that the Township of Springwater continue to engage with the Office of the Provincial Land and Development Facilitator, Hempson Consulting, the City of Barrie, the Township of Oro-Medonte, and the County of Simcoe to develop a work plan for the next steps in the Joint Land Needs Analysis Study. On February the 5th, 2025, Council passed a motion regarding future residential community uses and employment lands in Springwater. This motion was presented by Councillors Moore and Fisher and confirmed that Barrie and Springwater are part of the same regional market area and that housing growth in Springwater's Midhurst Secondary Plan area may necessitate the expedited designation of additional employment lands to maintain balanced community development, and that all the objectives of the Land Needs Analysis Study could be achieved if Springwater, rather than Barrie, were to approve the proposed annexation lands for both residential and employment purposes. The motion directed staff to report back June 2025. We're not there yet. On the planning processes for zoning and the official plan amendments to expand the Midhurst Secondary Plan to designate lands between Midhurst and Barrie for residential and community area uses, and the lands to the east of Midhurst in the Highway 400 corridor for employment uses. In other words, Council was going to wait for additional information and data going forward. Why the rush? Why change course because strong mayor powers made it possible? What are the presumed benefits to Springwater Township as identified in the current proposal? My point being is that this council was being prudent, thoughtful, careful, and directing staff to gather critical information, research, and report back in June to make data-driven decisions. However, May 7th, Mayor Coghlan, with strong mayor powers in hand, passed a strong mayor bylaw with more than 1/3 support so that Mayor Coghlan alone would unilaterally discuss boundary adjustment with the City of Barrie, and 2 days later, there was a proposal in hand. So here we are with this proposal. I will note that Oro-Medonte and the County of Simcoe have stayed the course. There are two themes to support the proposal as arranged by Mayor Coghlan and Mayor Nuttall. And this was arrived at jointly with the benefit of the data Springwater Council had agreed to receive from staff, as well as the results from the Stage 3 study. One was the shortage of employment lands. This was the City of Barrie's take. The second was the need for cross-border servicing. This was being put forth by Springwater Township. I would like to think that everyone involved had read the Hempson report, which clearly stated that the City of Barrie has sufficient employment lands. However, this particular narrative continues to be pushed forward. In respect of the second theme of cross-border servicing, which I will add is a very common item throughout Ontario, with many municipalities putting this type of agreement in place as a matter of cooperative infrastructure sharing, since water and wastewater are user pay utilities, not taxpayer-based utilities like roads and parks. The point here is that Springwater Council has been provided sufficient information through reports and from our own dedicated staff, knowledgeable staff, that water and wastewater cross-border servicing is not required. In a nutshell, Springwater can go it alone and doesn't need or want cross-border servicing from the City of Barrie. That is my opinion. What is Springwater getting? Resident recreation fees. Well, you know, we've been paying $87,000 or less, because that was the last figure. I think the rate that's shown on the document is 103, but our agreement actually says for 2024-25 was 90,000, 26-27 was 90,000, 24-25 was 87. The City of Barrie, respecting the parking passes, most folks that I have spoken to can't believe that this is even a thing. To be, you know, and I'm not knocking it, and I apologize if it sounds like it is, but it's almost as if we just threw some stuff in there to inflate what it looked like Springwater Township was going to get as a benefit. So I'm just going to tell it the way it is. In respect of the total compensation of roughly $13.5 million for 4,373 acres, I would suggest that these lands are owned by the residents of Springwater Township, are poised to provide economic benefits for the Township of Springwater to the tune of approximately $6.1 billion residential and $4.8 billion non-residential. That's industrial and commercial. With estimated property taxes generated for township and county in the number of $140 million, and provide for and accommodate approximately 24,430 jobs in Springwater Township. A further $715 million in development charges to benefit our residents, county, and school boards. Additionally, an estimated annual spending in the region of almost $350 million by the population to be accommodated in the expansion lands. So I don't think it's a good deal. At the end of the day, this is a terrible deal proposal, in my opinion, for residents of Springwater Township, and they are the owners of Springwater Township, not me. I don't have the right to give their land away. County of Simcoe, lost revenue, we haven't even discussed that. This is a decision that you're expecting us to make that impacts the County of Simcoe, and by impacting the County of Simcoe and their tax dollars, that means that Springwater residents get shortchanged twice, because the people that go to the City of Barrie are going to pay taxes, and the people who stay behind are going to have to make up that shortfall. The 4,573 acres that disappear also are tax base for Simcoe County, which Springwater Township benefits from their services that they provide countywide, as well as the other municipalities. And the folks that are left behind, they're going to have to make up the shortfall. So taxes, in my opinion, would go up. A question that I really have here is why and how, and I'm going to look to our Mayor Coughlin, who is also the deputy warden, and I want to know, was the county informed that this was going to be happening in any way, shape, or form, or were they completely left out of the loop on this? Because we're basically looking to part with 4,573 hours that the county has a definitive stake in. These are their tax dollars too. So I'm not going to ask any questions. I'm just going to leave it at that, and I will ask only that question of Mayor Coughlin. Mayor Coughlin, as the deputy warden, did you inform the county of what your intentions were when you made this decision to basically, in my opinion, open up a Pandora's box before the Pandora's box should have been opened?
Deputy Cabral. Yes, I have been in constant communication with the county, but as you'll recall, when we do wear dual hats, I wear my Springwater hat first. And the decision to get to the table and have discussions with the City of Barrie was made in the best interest of the township of Springwater. When the decision was made, I did meet with the warden and the CAO. Since that time, since the announcement is made, our planning staff has been in constant communication, setting up meetings with Director or General Manager Westendorp, no, Nathan, Director of Planning. The communication is ongoing. Does that answer your question?
Actually, it kind of does, because it sounds to me like you advised county after, not before. And to be quite frank, I think it's a delicate role when you're the deputy warden and the mayor of Springwater Township to completely leave them out of the loop. And basically, here we are.
And for clarification on the statement that being left out of the loop, and I don't want to get into semantics tonight, we do have presentations here. I'm happy to do that, but not leaving them out of the loop, making decisions as we move forward. The county has been involved. Springwater Township is not leaving the facilitated process. The information that is going to be moving forward, we're still part of that process. This is moving forward in this direction has come from requests and information not being received. Members of the public wanted this to be a public, open, and transparent process. That is what, well, at least there's one. This was moving forward in the facilitated process didn't give us an avenue to speak to residents, to tell them as this evolves, involving the community, getting their feedback as this map is going to change. I would assume this map is going to change. The commitment that I made through that was that I would go get a proposal and bring it back to council, that we would have numerous public meetings, we would have public consultation. This is not doing a deal without the county being involved, without this council being involved. This is the first step in a transparent process. Follow on Deputy Cabral, and I have done.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. I'm not suggesting that this process couldn't be happening. What I am saying is that this process should not be happening right now. This process should have happened after all of our data was in. We're waiting for information from staff. To suggest that this is just reaching out to Barry to get a proposal, I don't buy that for a minute.
Yeah. Anything I've ever heard from residents is that they prefer to be involved from the beginning. Councillor Alexander?
Okay. Try and keep this brief. I have a couple comments. I think Deputy Cabral covered most of my thoughts on this with respect to the facilitation process. It's something we unanimously agreed to with the County Simcoe, with Oro, and with Barry. And I struggle with using the facilitation process as a reason why we couldn't be open with our residents, because all that took was for us to have the discussion and say, we want to be open with our residents, and approach the facilitator and say, this is the avenue we're going to take. And we never did that. So we certainly did not have to have a presentation from the city of Barrie and go off of the facility, or have a side deal, if you will, in order to be transparent to our residents. That was not necessary. So I'm going to keep this short. I have many issues with this. Obviously, one of the big issues that I do have with your statement, Mr. Nuttall, or Mayor Nuttall, sorry, is that we should have this wrapped up prior to the next election. That is a big issue. Both yourself and Mayor Coughlin have strong mayor powers, but neither of you ran on annexing land from Springwater. That was not either of your mandates. So if we are going to move forward with this, it is important that this become an election issue so the people get to vote in and know what they're voting in.
And before I do go back to Mayor Nuttall, I want to speak again to the facilitated process and Facilitator Schelling. Facilitator Schelling has agreed to meet with our staff every Friday morning at 9 o'clock throughout this process to ensure that they are up to date and provide us with guidance and information as it becomes available through that process. So to suggest that we're doing this to step outside of that project or as a sidebar, this is by the guidance from the province. So I am trying to ensure that the province is involved, the county is involved, this council is involved, but most importantly, the public is involved. There is no intention to leave anyone out of this. the more people that are involved, the better decision making we'll have. And Councillor Moore,
Sorry, may I?
Mayor Nuttall, and then Councillor Moore. My apologies.
Yeah, no problem. To answer your question, in terms of the timeline and the mandate, and I will note, I've been in this room for a facilitation process. Only one of your representatives showed up. Not sure why. You know, maybe it was a medical condition. Maybe it was something else. I don't know. But only one of your representatives who was designated to be in the room was there that day. And I'll leave you to ask them where they were, what they were doing. Okay. So that's the first piece of the facilitation process. The second piece, in terms of the date and times and all of these things and the mandate, I actually ran on this. It was in my literature. It was, we're not going to let the boundary lines of the city stop us from being able to have industrial land. We're going to go and work with the province. We're going to reach out to our neighbors. We're going to talk about cross-border servicing, like you see in the plan here. We're going to talk about a boundary adjustment, but we're not going to let artificial lines on a piece of paper determine whether we can have jobs in the region or not. And I also talked about in my platform, in speeches, Chamber of Commerce, many others, that working with our neighbors on economic development was incredibly important. It's something that I believe in, something that I've been saying since day one. I think both of your representatives who've been in the room can attest to that, that we are looking not only to help the city of Barrie with employment lands, but our initial offer was actually to provide servicing to Springwater Township for industrial lands for yourselves to be able to generate that tax revenue. In memory, it was in the neighborhood of $8 million in new taxation a year with very little cost associated with that in order to service it going forward. To put it in perspective, I think you have around a $30 million or under $30 million annual operating budget. Is that correct? So we were talking about adding somewhere in the neighborhood of 20% to 25% onto your annual operating when doing that. So, you know, in terms of the date and time, that is what's being proposed. Certainly, you'll be able to work through that. But just from the city of Barrie's perspective, I did run on this. I did talk about it. It was in my literature, and it's something that I've seen through for the full 3 years.
About following, and I do have Councillor Moore waiting, so I'll get to everyone first, but this is Councillor
So
Alexander.
I do apologize if it was in your platform because I certainly didn't follow the City of Barrie election as much as I followed the Springwater election. It was certainly not in anybody's table up here. It was not in their platform. And I would
And
also,
please be respectful of my position and what
And
I've said.
also just going to that questions and comments to go through the chair.
so I just did apologize. So I would prefer you take my apology and not just assume I'm not being respectful. Further to that, I will say, when this was brought to this table initially, it was on cross-border servicing and that was it. The directive of this council, I will tell you, Mayor Nuttall, I sit at this table and I will tell you what was voted on. The vote was that Mayor Coughlin and Deputy Mayor Cabral could have conversations with the city of Perry about cross-border servicing, and there were not to be discussions on annexation. We learned right after that that's exactly where the conversation went. So it begs the question of what conversations happened prior to those initial ones that were given by this council.
Yeah, thank you. I did not do a presentation on cross-border servicing alone. If you would like, you could pull up the video and we could go through my previous presentation, but it was looking at a border change along with cross-border servicing. In terms of the conversations that have taken place over the last couple of years, we have had many conversations, and then at a point of time, it was that we had to work through the facilitator. And then obviously with the change in the structure of strong mayors, we have been trying to get meetings, trying to get real negotiation, trying to get real conversations, which then commenced following, I think there was a meeting of your council where there was a vote on Mayor Coughlin being able to meet with me as mayor.
Councillor Moore, Councillor Chair.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. Oh, a few things to highlight off the start is this remains a voluntary process. Annexation is not being threatened. If we go forward, it is on a voluntary process only because there is confusion in the media about the province stepping in and taking over. The facilitated process has been carrying on for some time, almost 2 years. This council's never met the facilitator, however long, 18 months. But this council's never met the facilitator except for our mayor and our deputy mayor. So it would have been nice to have a conversation with our facilitator, but that wasn't afforded us. Shared principles for boundary adjustments. So I'm going off of your shared principles that you created, which were modeled after the St. Thomas, St. Elgin or Central Elgin Boundary Adjustment 2023. But that was their region, that was their deal, which also included substantial provincial and federal government funding and input for the Volkswagen EV plant deal. But modeled after that, unless I haven't heard of a big deal like that happening in our area, you've modeled the offer after that at $7,500 per developable acre-ish. We're not even sure if that's a firm number. So, because your analysis says it will continue, but a total of 4,373 acres in total. $6,825,000 payable now with an additional $1 million per year for 5 years. I'd like to show you, this is public information, but I'd like to comment on the values that you've placed on this land, although you're using a precedent that was set somewhere different. 2001, okay, so let me just go back. So almost $7 million, but $13 million in total. 2001, so 24 years ago, 47 acres on Bayfield Street sold at $320,000, which was just under $7,000 an acre, power of sale. In 2012, 13 years ago, 103 acres on Bayfield Street sold for $2 million, worked out to $19,000 and change per acre. 2012. 2017, 27 acres on Sunnydale Road for $1 million, $37,000 per acre. 2018, 51 acres on Sunnydale Road, $6 million at $117,000 per acre. 2024, 132 acres on Sunnydale Road for $12 million at $91,000 per acre. And finally, at 2025, a deal that's not yet closed, 46 acres on Ann Street for $142,000 per acre. So in my guesstimation, that equals a more accurate figure of $257 million, and your offer is $12 million.
I think that's a question. If I can, yeah.
Not that.
Is that a question or? Oh,
Nope, this is actually comments, but it is public information. The key pillar of the framework, again, is a commitment to environmental sustainability. We have been waiting and are still waiting for the results of the Hempson Report Stage 3 assessment to advise this council on the financial impacts to both Barrie and Springwater, environmental impacts, including phosphorus loading into the Willow Creek, the menacing wetlands, and of course, Lake Simcoe. We don't have that information yet. Very important to this council. The other pillar was, and statement was, we are running out of shovel-ready employment land, which limits our ability to attract new businesses and create high-quality jobs for residents. You just spoke of invisible lines. The Joint Land Needs Analysis and Study confirmed Barrie has enough employment land available, and there are a very limited number of shovel-ready parcels on your map compared to the size of the proposed areas. The Joint Land Needs Analysis and Study dated the 2024 confirmed that Barrie and Springwater are part of the same regional market as determined by the Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation, and also stated in the analysis that Midhurst is well positioned to assist in addressing this housing shortfall. Further, by leveraging investments in water, wastewater, and transportation servicing infrastructure in Midhurst, Springwater can provide much needed housing options that align with regional growth objectives set out by the province. In addition to addressing the Barrie regional market housing shortfall, the expansion of employment area lands within Springwater to service the needs of the regional market area represent a strategic and timely opportunity to enhance economic development. The subject lands are well positioned along the 400 corridor, a major goods movement route, and are in close proximity to the Lake Simcoe Regional Airport. The growing demand for serviced large footprint employment lands across the GTA has made it increasingly difficult to secure suitable sites for advanced manufacturing, logistics, and other industrial uses. To reiterate, Barrie and Springwater are part of the Barrie sub-region as defined by CMHC. The regional market areas that are defined as larger geographic regions that encompass multiple municipalities requiring a high degree of economic and social integration. As such, there's a strategic advantage of coordinating growth across municipal boundaries. But we don't need to change those boundaries. Working together and in a regional approach, along with the County of Simcoe, is the way to move forward. And I have stated that all along, that I would like to see us move forward in a regional way. The assessment values. Well, I'll just back up. Since our resolution passed February the 5th, staff and members of our development community have been working together in determining how we would service those lands that were approved unanimously to move forward through the expanded Midhurst settlement area over to the 400 corridor. And we've been provided with all of those reports. And those professionals continue to say we can service those lands ourselves. They call them the Midhurst expansion lands would generate significant benefits for the township. Approximately 11 billion in property assessment, 11 billion in property assessment, 6.1 billion residential, 4.8 billion non-residential, and an estimated annual taxes at 140 million. Also providing for approximately 24,430 jobs with 715,000 in DCs. What I'd like to see when this process started, we hired and retained Quinto Annabelle, firm out of Toronto, to advise this council from a legal perspective. And I think now is the time that we send all of our information, all of our reports, all of our decisions to Quinto Annabelle for a review, including the Hempson report. Thank you.
Thank you. Before I do go back, I think that it's incredibly important as we move forward that when statements and comments are made, that I'm going to address them one by one. The facilitated process that did involve Deputy Cabral and myself was consistent across all parties. Not all councils were involved, nor were they introduced to Mr. Schelling. And secondly, the retail value of the lands within this assessed area, we're not talking about purchasing the land for $7,500 an acre. This is a compensation package. This is not, we understand that there's a retail value, and the compensation package that's being presented is not to purchase each of those acres. And I think also, I don't know how to do this, but maybe over to our director of planning. Council has received information in a closed session specific to our servicing capacities. And I think that we need to find a way to make that public so that statements that are being made reflect the information that we received from those consultants on our internal capacity ability. I have Councillor Moore, and then Councillor Fisher.
Thank you. Just to be clear, that the reports we received, I had asked for those reports to be put on our agenda. And they were not, and I'm not quite sure how that happened, but I do want them added to the meeting tonight. So if we could, if that requires an amendment to include those reports on the meeting package for this evening, I'd like to move with that.
Not sure the effectiveness of having them added to this agenda, but we could definitely, I'm hoping that we can pull that information out of closed and have it available in the next agenda so that it's made publicly available. Okay, thank you. Councillor Fisher?
Thank you. We can call it a compensation package, but I think for anyone who's read this, we all know it's a raw deal. I know when the mayor came forward and asked to negotiate unilaterally with the city of Barrie, I didn't expect this to come forward. I've fielded phone calls all week from concerned residents all over Springwater, not just Ward 5, which I represent, but all of Springwater. They recognized very quickly that this erodes our tax base, it erodes and robs us of future potential. And it hurts Springwater as a whole. Frankly, it hurts it from wards 4 and 5, which will be affected, right over to Elmvale. which will again see increased taxes as our tax base gets eroded. I also have to talk about the conservancy. As many people have come to me and said, how long will it be a conservancy for? Many of them remember the Greenbelt issue that happened. We were always told it would be a Greenbelt until it was no longer a Greenbelt. So I don't know what's to make of that. I can honestly tell you that for $13.5 million, when we have a roughly $100 million budget per year, the math doesn't math. Also, I'm not about to sell at Springwater for parking passes and the threat now of an ice storm in the future. It doesn't make much sense. So there is that. Another matter I want to address that's come to light, and I think we should all be aware of it. As the mayor just said, she wanted to be open from the beginning, open and transparent. I don't think we've been transparent with the public or frankly council. I will say, and I hate to say this, I feel that Mayor Coughlin, you've acted in bad faith. I want to tell people in the last county, it was late April, I saw Mayor Greenlaw talk about meetings that were had between all three municipalities. And he actually spoke about January 9th and February 19th. He said that all parties of 2023, he said that all parties were present and discussing land issues. This was not something discussed with me. I was not privy to it, and the public was not. I emailed him asking for clarity about the times of these meetings, the subjects of the meetings, and those in attendance. Excuse me as I rifle through my paperwork. Excuse me. He did offer some clarity. He actually talked about the 19th of 2023, long before, by the way, we had ever given permission to go forward and first talk about cross-border servicing. So on the 19th of 2023, Mayor Nuttall and our mayor went to see Mayor Greenlaw in Oro and talked about, in his words, they were probing for land issues. This is an email from him. And he asked to go speak with his council. He, unlike our mayor, sought permission from his council, as it should be done. On February the 9th of 2023, there was a meeting held in Barrie with all parties present, and I asked for clarity. The CAOs, by the way, our former CAO now works for the city of Barrie, the planning staff, and elected officials. Only one of our elected officials was present. I asked for the nature of it. It was potential land partnerships. What I'm trying to illustrate here is that this didn't just come about recently, right? This was being planned and discussed seemingly well in advance. I, of course, wanted to substantiate this. I phoned the deputy mayor of Oro, and he did substantiate it. But I also asked for freedom of information where I could see the schedules of our former CAO to corroborate that, yes, those meetings happened on those dates. I also found that our mayors had a few more meetings to discuss industrial land usage. What I'm trying to say, folks, is that this didn't just come about. This was not born of cross-border servicing. This was being discussed well in advance, and it wasn't being discussed with us as a council. It wasn't being discussed with our public. Anyway, I think that it's plain to see that this is not acting in good faith or serving our citizens as our oath of office would make us do. I also want to say that this seems to me that it's not a deal between two municipalities and our citizens. It's not a deal between even two councils, right? It's seeming more and more to me that this is a land deal between two mayors. So I don't feel good as a councillor, as a representative of Ward 5 and all of Springwater, knowing this information. So.
Thanks.
Madam Chair, can I quickly ask, I had a 7:30 presentation I was supposed to be doing, and I thought I was here to answer questions. I'm not.
I apologize.
yeah.
Are there any other questions for, I do have Councillor Garwood. I will address that comment after Councillor Garwood.
Well, I don't have direct questions for Mayor Nuttall, so I can just make my statement afterwards. So if there's question directed, then the deputy mayor.
Any other questions directly for Mayor Nuttall? Deputy Cabral?
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. I'm going to ask you directly, Mayor Nuttall. When you engaged in these meetings that we just found out about with our mayor back in 2023, long before this whole issue of coming to see you, which I was there at that meeting, and I was at the council meeting when the mayor, myself, and the CAO were directed to come and ask you for cross-border servicing. My question is quite simple. At what point in time, prior to you getting strong mayor powers, I might add, because that didn't happen till later in 2023, did you go to your council and seek permission to engage in boundary adjustment, land transactions, or anything with our mayor? Because she certainly did not have any direction from this council. And as a matter of fact, I'll go on record as saying that she has not once during any of the meetings, closed or otherwise, alluded to the fact that she'd engaged with you, Mayor Nuttall, in land boundary, whatever you want to call them, negotiations, conversations, whatever you want to call them. And here we are.
Mayor Nuttall?
Yeah, thank you for the question. So I'll answer the question directly and then I'll substantiate why, because I think you're asking both mayors at the same time in a sense. So we did have that conversation. And we had, many conversations, but I wouldn't go to my council until I'd had those conversations. I don't need permission as the chief executive officer of the corporation of the city of Barrie, of our board of directors, if I could speak to another chief. So-
And I'm just going to ask for decorum. So I believe what we're speaking to is,
Mayor Coughlin, you asked us to go for cross-border service, for permission from this council to go for cross-border servicing.
Deputy Cabral,
Why
I'm just
did you
going to
not
ask for
this council
just gonna ask for
permission to
decorum.
negotiate?
decorum. Mayor Nuttall?
Yeah, just, I would encourage everyone to look at the municipal act. The mayor has a specific role.
Thank you. Thank you very much for being here and our conversation can continue. Thank you. Thank you. The comments from council this evening and throughout all forms of media continue to be that I am acting in bad faith, which is an accusation that I take deep offense to. Deep offense to. My oath of office is something that I hold with high esteem, and I have for a decade serving this community. I continue to do this in good faith. The original, when there was word that we were going to get strong mayors, and again, FOI the next calendar, I called Mayor Nuttall and I said, effective as this date, there will be strong mayors, and there was a meeting in a calendar. Then I learned that it couldn't be done through order. It had to be done through a council meeting. So I moved that meeting date because I respected this council saying, you cannot speak to him. And actually, the resolution from this council that said that I had to attend things with Deputy Cabral was superseded by the Municipal Act. But I abided by it anyway. I don't need authority from this council to have conversations with neighboring mayors, with county colleagues about various issues that impact our region and our residents. I'm elected to do just that.
No, you're not, Mayor Coughlin. This council is. You're not allowed to act unilaterally. You might have strong mayor powers now, Madam Mayor, but you did not have strong mayor powers. As a matter of fact, back in 2022, when you put something out that actually said you were engaging high-level discussions with the city of Barrie. And that's not the point. The point is that when this council got together for cross-border servicing, up until this day and time, you have never even once said that you had discussions with the city of Barrie prior to that meeting. And I'll also go on the record to say that our CAO previous CAO, who is now with the city of Barrie, never once, and he was part of all of our negotiations the whole way through, never once did he say that there'd been any previous to that either. So if you want to talk about being open and transparent, no, you were not. You engaged with the Oro as well, not just the city of Barrie, but you invited another municipality into these discussions before this council knew anything at all about it. So if you want to say that you're adhering to your oath of office, I beg to differ.
Thank you. Mhm. I will continue to engage with local and neighboring mayors. I will continue to bring information back to this council. And again, and that's what this evening's for, so. Councillor Moore.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. I have one question regarding the deputy's comments and yourself. And why then did you feel it necessary to use your strong mayor's powers so quickly after they were obtained, if you could have simply come to council and been transparent with us and asked us, it's difficult maybe to, coordinate schedules. I would like to continue this conversation. Why didn't you just come to council and tell us that?
And come to council and tell you,
That you wanted to have this conversation.
thank you. And again, for 2 years now, I have remained confident that this council, that the Township of Springwater should be negotiating with the city of Barrie. That has never wavered. Every opportunity that I have had and every vote of this council, I have remained on that path. And I did inform council, I will continue to inform council, and it is my choice. Well, you are correct that it would only take a 2/3 majority of this council to sign a deal. That is not my intention. That is why we are here tonight. I am hopeful that without any further use of strong mayors, that we can continue to walk this path, that we can come together. Councillor Garwood?
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin, and thank you for the discussion around the table tonight. More statements than questions, but still I have many questions that are unanswered. There was a recent comment around artificial lines on paper. While that may be true from one side of the perspective, those artificial lines do matter to, I think, the 7 of us and everyone in this room and everyone that lives in this municipality. So I would push back a bit on that statement. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a bit of a different approach here, and I'm going to focus on the future. We have spent a lot of time talking about the past, and that's absolutely everyone's right to do so. But I do want to talk about why I think our audience is here tonight and why people are tuned in online, and that is the matter at hand. As other members have mentioned, this is a Springwater-wide issue. Putting our head in the sand as well, though, and pretending it doesn't exist is not going to make it go away. Would we all love it to go away? I'm not going to make an assumption for everybody else, but I can definitely tell you that I'm not interested in seeing any boundary adjustments. But again, this council, I think, has remained pretty consistent around the fact that we want to see this municipality stay the way it is, but understanding there is a significant matter at hand. So I have a few points I want to speak through. These are questions, again, that not only have I thought about myself, but those that I represent in the northern part of this municipality have also brought forward. And I think it's important that they're brought to the public light, and hopefully we can get some answers for these and bring them back. The first being the St. Thomas and Central Elgin example, understanding that that is the example that has been utilized for the shared priorities in regards to the $7,500 per developable acre. When I look at that agreement, I look at it in a few different lights. The first being that, of course, there was a bit of a carrot on that one. As I believe Councillor Moore had indicated earlier on, the Volkswagen battery plant that was coming to that community had significant financial benefit to the local economy and an immediate need. In this scenario, we don't know what would be on these lands. So again, that is a concern that I have and also a concern that I know the public has shared. Secondary to that $7,500 indication of per developable acre. Understanding there is 1,811 estimated developable acres indicated within the shared priorities. I believe that's what it's called. At the same time, understanding that there's roughly 2,600 acres that are undevelopable in that area. I think I've had a similar conversation with most members of council around my concern about understanding we can't carve out what's developable and what's not developable, but at the same time, there's still a significant portion of the overall 4,300 acres that there wouldn't, or at least there isn't a proposed compensation package for, which is concerning in my perspective. Also, comparing to the St. Thomas agreement, I can't speak for their land values. I can't speak for their proximity to large cities like the city of Barrie. I'm not familiar with the region. I think another question that's come up, and I think this is also to do with a lot of misinformation and confusing information that's been out in the public, has been the value of cross-border servicing on Bayfield Street. I've seen in various articles different numbers being thrown around. Respectfully to the community, I'm not aware of any number that has ever been presented to this council, and if I'm wrong, please somebody up here correct me. But that information has not been provided to us, and especially has not been provided to the community. So again, questions. My question pile continues. The potential industrial tax revenue on these 1,811 developable acres, if a large portion of that was to be industrial, again, there could be tens of millions of dollars that would be to the benefit of the city of Barrie and at the loss of the township of Springwater. In the proposal that has been provided, there isn't a firm structure in regards to any sort of partnership or portion or in perpetuity payment regarding those lands. Again, I don't want to throw a number out there because there's enough out there. I don't want to add to any of the other confusing information, but there could be millions on the table there. The Little Lake Conservancy Trust, again, I think on paper, absolutely would be a benefit to an extent for the region, but at the same time, I do have similar concerns as other members have mentioned, and I know members of my community have also mentioned around the fact that could a conservancy be dissolved 10 years down the road? What is in place to protect those lands to ensure there aren't townhomes riding around the edge of Little Lake? I understand the zoning associated with those lands. I'm not getting into the specifics right now, but again, high level concerns. And then again, so I think of those, some of those more local concerns that again we might have heard numbers out there, but how many properties fall within the designated area? How many individual homeowners is it? What's the annual taxation number that is currently coming from those properties? Understanding, again, lots of numbers been thrown out there, but I've never seen an actual figure. Are those lands actively farmed? Is it prime farmland? Again, these are the list of countless questions that have come forward to me that respectfully to the community, I haven't been able to answer myself. So I can't give you an answer unless we have that information. And I think that speaks to ensuring that this process has to be public. This process has to be transparent. I'm so happy to see an audience full of people. I know we don't see that often, and I think we're often surprised when we do see it. So it's a good thing that our community is engaged, that our community cares from across the municipality, not just one or two wards. So there's a lot more information to come. I have grave concerns with the proposal outlined. I've mentioned that to you, and I've mentioned that to, I think, all other 5 members of council as well. And so does the community that I represent. So my desire here is that we ensure our discussions are based in fact, that residents, again, continue to have an opportunity for open and transparency, town halls, an opportunity from that aspect. But then again, that many of these questions are answered and are able to be provided not only for my benefit, but and not only for the 20 or so folks that have reached out to me in the past few days, but for the folks online, the folks in our community, and the folks in this room. So again, those concerns are significant right now. I think we are still significantly far away from any sort of collaboration. And at the same time, I think it's also important to remember, and I've mentioned this to some of the folks in this room today, two things can be true at the same time. We can be concerned that the province is going to step in and is going to make a decision for us if we don't make one ourselves. We've been throwing that around. Will they? Won't they? That's up to interpretation. I'm not here to debate that tonight. To the second piece, there is an offer, or I should say a proposal on the table that I do not think is overall beneficial to our municipality in the long run. So two things can be true at the same time. I think we have a long way to go here, and I'm just happy to see this manner in the public and this room full today. Thank you.
Thank you. I have Councillor Fisher and then Deputy Cabral.
Thank you. So a few comments. One, I concur with Councillor Garwood. It is nice to see the amount of community engagement from one end of Springwater to the other. People do need to pay attention to this, and I'm glad they are. This is probably one of the most important meetings I think that we have had thus far, and probably all term. So I'm glad to see the turnout from one ward to the other. But I think it's two things I'd like to say. One, very bluntly, this is a terrible deal. It's not even a point of foundation to start discussing. It's actually an insult to all of you as Springwater residents. It shouldn't have even been brought forward to us. So I can't even entertain it. I couldn't even read it, to be honest with you. It was terrible. But I think that we also need to say that, it's been said, be at the table, be at the table. We don't need to be. If I came and tried to negotiate on your home, it doesn't obligate you to sell it to me. And so that's the analogy I'll give you. This is our land. This is our municipality. And I think we should not be goaded into it. This is them goading us into a negotiation. And I will say, not to point fingers, but it is in bad faith. We should have never received this. Mr. Nuttall, I thank him for coming, but to me, he was brought in as a closer, and I won't be closed. So those are my blunt feelings about that. So.
Deputy Finn. Deputy Cabral.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin, and through you, just with respect to a couple of comments Councillor Garwood was making with respect to the servicing piece. We did ask our staff, and we did ask our development community, and the Midhurst Landowners Group did, when Councillor Moore put forth her motion, send a letter of support, basically indicating that with respect to the wastewater, they would do what they could to support Springwater Township. Back in the day when I thought this first started about the cross-border servicing piece, I did ask our CAO at the time, if we're able to do this on our own, and I'm thinking to myself, how much is it going to cost to run a pipe from, Snow Valley Road up to the top of the hill there, where the Remington development wanted to put in the seniors' home with the palliative care and everything, offload some of the pressure from RVH, give those folks a place to be, and our folks too in Springwater Township a place to be, a great opportunity. And I was, floated with this $75 million figure. And in the material that we've just recently received, and I might add that even from the Rose Corporation, when I went up there to see their wastewater system up on Gill Road, they are running that pipe, a forced main, all the way from Rose Corp's development on Gill Road to Snow Valley there. That's why Finley Mills Road is closed. So you can imagine, sounds like a ton of bucks, right? And they were doing that for in the neighborhood of $13 million. And I was astounded when I heard that. And on this particular information that we got, and this is not from people who don't know what they're talking about either. These are from people who are in the development field, housing and all that infrastructure. They estimated the cost to extend water and wastewater service to the Highway 400 employment lands at less than $20 million. They also estimated the cost to extend water and wastewater services to the south expansion area, including the Remington and the Sadlin MZO areas at the top of Bayfield Street, which is on that map in yellow, to be $15 million. My God, I mean, the people who are going to be developing those two developments, I'm sure they could kick in a few bucks, but that is something that this township can and should be doing on its own, because we are developing, and we're developing in order to make life better for our own residents. And that's what we need to keep on doing. And I agree with Councillor Fisher. It's a bad deal. At the end of the day, it's $1 billion that they want to take from Springwater Township. I'd rather keep that $1 billion and build Springwater Township to what it really could be.
Councillor Alexander?
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. I just have one statement to make. I think everyone needs to be very clear about when we're talking about being at the table and negotiating with the city of Barrie, who we're actually negotiating with. Mayor Nuttall's respect for this council, the residents of Springwater, 200 plus of which he wants to make his own residence. He didn't even have the decency to remain in this meeting to listen to the questions and concerns of the people he's trying to take over. He was allotted to go second. We moved him up and he had a meeting at 7:30 where he had to be elsewhere. He wasn't even planning on staying here for 45 minutes.
And I think and as you will note on the agenda, there was an item added after. There was not confirmation from the city of Barrie when I put this on the agenda to make it public. There was no, I didn't at that time know who was going to present it. I had talked to staff about presenting it. It was about making the information public. At that time, I requested through the city of Barrie that the city of Barrie presented. They said that we have another engagement it had to be gone by 7:30. And I said, if that's what you can do, thank you. So it was not out of disrespect. Again, the semantics of, and that's fine. Councillor Garwood.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. And just two final thoughts here from me personally is, again, I do have concern from the timeline perspective. I understand that our presenters have a desired timeline, but at the end of the day, we need to follow what is going to be best for the Township of Springwater and not an artificial timeline that has been recommended by somebody else. So whether this process takes 6 months or it takes 6 years, I think this council A needs to understand that, and B, we should not be listening or ensuring that the city of Barrie is pushing that timeline. And I don't think they have, but I think we need to ensure that moving forward, we do this at our speed with the public in mind. And a second point on that, I sit at this table and I still don't know what that next step looks like. So if you can provide that, or maybe it's from staff or from somebody else on council, but can that information be provided so not only myself, but our public ensures they understand what this next piece of this discussion is? Because personally, I don't know myself.
Thank you. So this evening, receiving information, but also receiving information during question period. So staff at this time is there high level concerns and questions about this? So then it would be taken back by staff, and staff would then go through the list from council, go through the list from the public, address those. We would then, staff would provide a staff report back to council with the information. What that date is, I'm not going to look to Director of Planning. This is a large undertaking. Originally, my plan, we thought we could have a open house in the middle of June, noting that summertime is not the best typically for public engagement. So we wanted to ensure that the public was engaged, also with our timing with our direct mailer to make sure everyone was informed. So once this has been received by council, staff can then take it away and we can come with a timeline, even essentially months in advance as to targets to show what our timeline is. And I do believe that as far as the timeline from the city of Barrie, that's going to be the discretion of this council. Councillor, was there a follow-on before I move on? Councillor Moore and then Fisher.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. Two things. I certainly don't want to let my recommendation that the reports and studies and all the information that we've garnered so far, my request to have that passed along to Quinto Annabelle for review and report back to this council on his findings. Make sure that's added as an amendment. Secondly, the timeline of January 2026 is not my timeline. My timeline is the election 2026. So I think that this is something our residents need to vote on. They're all informed now. We will continue to have meetings, continue to inform, but by the time September or October 2026 rolls around, you will be very well aware of what the issues are and what the costs are. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, that was exactly the plan. Councillor Fisher.
I agree with Councillor Moore. I think that all that documentation should be sent on, but I also, it needs to be an election issue. You know, it's been said that this was part of a mandate. There was never any mandate to start carving up spring water. So it should be an election issue, and I think everyone should go to the polls with an opinion on it. So you should have an opinion on where you see spring water in the future and where your candidates in the next election stand on that issue, because it's very important, because not one of us, myself included, voted for annexation or land deals. Not one of us voted for that. So it needs to be an election issue in the next election.
Deputy Cabral.
Mayor Coughlin, in relationship to Councillor Moore's suggestion, if this is received, because I'm going to be quite frank with you, I'm not going to receive it. I'm not going to vote to receive this document. I don't know what that means or how it's going to happen, but I will not be supporting this document coming to council and being received. However, I would ask that if it is received, that not only those documents that Councillor Moore is speaking of, but also every resolution, every staff report, every notice of motion, that all of those documents be attached to this proposal coming to us in their entirety, including those, if possible, and if we have to have a closed session meeting to do so, make them available too, because we need a really, really large scope here. We've been put under the gun now, and I would have preferred to wait until the Hempson report was finished, like our good neighbors, the county and Oro-Medonte are, and I would have preferred to have waited for all of our staff reports to come back, because in particular, the Hempson report is going to talk about the capabilities, the capacities, the intrinsic things that the city of Barrie has to have in order to do any of what they claim they want to do. So we're giving them the whole enchilada, and then we're going to find out later on that they didn't need that. They just needed a slice. And, once you give it to them, there's no taking it back. And when we talk about non-developable land, folks, drive by Tiffin Street there at Ferndale. That's a swamp. There's lots of houses being built there. So let's not kid ourselves. There's lots of ways. Engineers can move rivers, let alone drain land. So to suggest that there is land that is non-usable, even on Arter Road, that used to be a big sand berm. There's houses all over the place there. To suggest that there's land there that is not developable, I will say that that is just not true. It can always be something. So anyway, just so you folks know, I won't be voting to support this. I won't be voting for this to be received.
And thank you. And obviously everybody can vote how they want, obviously. I think the concern I have is that council is concerned that I would have a conversation and not bring something back to council. I was not in control of what it was being brought back. This is the first step. We are simply receiving this as information to move on to the next direction. Throughout the Hempson process, there was comments made that it was Barrie-centric, that the information was controlled and influenced by the city of Barrie, and that Barrie was in control of it. Well, now that Barrie is paying for the Hempson report and Hempson now reports to them, this council used to be concerned about that. But now we're saying we want to stay with the Hempson report. So this process here, I absolutely agree. all the information that we have, including the information that's in closed session that we don't seem to speak, we can't speak to. Once it's open, we can have these conversations with our public, which was the intent of this entire pathway, was to take it out from the facilitated process and put it into the public. So all of the comments about getting it in front of Quinto, getting all the information made public, that will form part of, we don't even have to wait for the next staff report. Our planning department is going to have a lot of work before them. We can just have this as information received on our next agenda. It doesn't have to be part and parcel. This is our timeline. This is our process, and those are all valid comments.
Right. Follow on, please, Mayor Coughlin.
Deputy Cabral.
Just two pieces. Yes, the city of Barrie is paying for the Hempson report, but numbers don't lie. They might slant it a particular way or embellish it a particular way, but at the end of the day, the numbers won't lie. The second piece is your comment about getting information and bringing it back to council. I hate to say this, but your track record proves on this particular case, that is not what happened.
Is there anything further on the recommendation that's before us? Councillor Garwood?
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. Can either yourself or the clerk please outline receiving the presentation, what the formality is around that process? Do we often receive presentations? It already happened, so I don't know how we don't receive it because it's already occurred, but again, receiving a presentation obviously doesn't equal support to the presentation. I've outlined significantly already my concerns with the existing proposal that's on the table. I do not support the existing proposal on the table, but again, I want clarity for the public.
Thank you. I'll ask for clarity. Thank you.
So receiving the presentation information for information is merely housekeeping. It's already been presented. It will form part of the public record. It will be compiled with all the information online and in the video. It does offer an opportunity to make those amendments that I've heard council make and a kind of
Formulated.
yeah, I've done something here to bring it all together for you. So that's
Councillor Fisher and Councillor Moore.
My worry is this: if we receive it, one, that we're moving further in that direction, we're inching towards it. So I am opposed to it. Also, two, we're saying that we're going to have staff compile a report. A report on what? How bad the deal is? I don't really want to waste staff's time, so you guys can come forward, tell me the obvious, that this is bad for us. I think anyone here, who can read can find that out. Why would I waste staff's time coming back to me with this, right? So really and truly, if Barrie wanted us to receive it and send it to our staff for comment, they should have come with something that was worth reading, So I won't support it, just like the deputy mayor said. It's just not worth our time to read it or send it to staff.
Councillor Moore?
Thank you. I have one question, and we are still learning that the strong mayor's powers purview of making decisions. There was another strong mayor's direction made about directing staff. It was very vague and it didn't contain specifics. So can you explain exactly what that is about?
Yeah.
And it is in regards to this subject, so I think it's important.
The direction would be that for the information that staff needs to do, so exactly what Councillor Fisher was suggesting, that he doesn't want to waste staff's time with it. It's direction that we get this information and bring it back to council. So it's speaking almost exactly the opposite of what Councillor Fisher is saying. It allows the opportunity to direct staff, whether it's with communication, whether with its planning, whether it's the financial components, when the questions are, how much land is involved? What's the tax assessment that involved in this? It's finding all of that information so that we can relay that to our residents. That's the direction for that. Councillor Moore?
Thank you. So as a follow-on, why do we need to invoke our strong mayor's powers for that? Why is it that we just can't work collaboratively? And furthermore, it doesn't look good. So I would say delegating your strong mayor's powers back to the CAO so he can direct staff like they're supposed to do does not put staff in a very compromising situation. So I have concerns about that direction. Because it was vague, I didn't understand it. And no explanation came along with it.
but also that I don't like the position it puts our staff in.
Thank you. And you are correct, and I am hopeful that as we move through this process, we won't need to utilize strong mayors. So if we receive this information and provide the direction through the amended recommendation that you have, which is to go to Quinto, which is to make the reports public, work together in that direction, we won't need strong mayors. So we have the resolution before us. Councilor Garwood?
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. Just a process question here. So the information that Councillor Moore has requested, which I would also like to see, is that forming part of a recommendation or an amendment this evening? And that, I'm assuming, is separate from the matter that was just discussed regarding the multitude of questions that the public might have and members of council, including myself, that has asked this evening. I'm just looking for a bit of clarity here.
So right now, the amendment would form part of the receiving. So that it would say, it would read, much like when we have a delegation for, let's say, a donation to the food bank. And I'm not equating that to that. Please don't take that as this is just for process. So when it comes forward that we receive the donate, or we receive the delegation from the food bank, and often council will say, and we direct staff to donate $1,000. So it's providing that additional direction to, on top of receiving. And it does not speak to support. It does not speak to any of that. It is simply moving to the next step. Did that? I just don't know if you're looking for a follow on before I go to Councillor Moore.
I am. I think saying moving to the next step potentially could provide a recommendation that there is a next step to move to right now, to say that we are tentatively saying yes to something when in reality we're not doing that. I personally would like to see the language maybe a bit more tighter in regards to we're seeking the information that council and the public is looking to be made public, gathering it in one location and answering questions, but there's no next step moved to. I know I'm being very specific here and I'm playing with words, but I think those words matter.
And I think maybe just saying that report back to council so that we have to then receive the information, which would just be a meeting like this where there's new additional information in the public. I have Councillor Moore and then Councillor Alexander.
Thank you. So we could either do it that way, or we could separate the two.
Yeah.
So we'll just separate the presentation and receiving of the presentation separate from sending the information to Quinto. So we could waive procedural bylaw when the motions come at the end of the agenda, and I can add it then, if that would make things cleaner.
That not a problem, or we could just simply have it during notice of motion as well. Yeah. Okay.
I'll be calling for a recorded vote, Mayor Coughlin.
Yeah.
I feel that accepting this is validating it, and I won't do that.
Thank you. And through that,
In all honesty, Mayor Coughlin, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I have to. If there's nothing in this for Springwater Township, who's benefiting from this deal?
thank you. The recorded vote, and we are going to separate this. So this is to receive the information, to receive the presentation. A recorded vote has been called, and I will remind council, I will go to you before we have the recorded vote. As part of recorded vote, there is no opportunity for comment during the recorded vote. So if there's any additional comments, they would be at this time. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. I look forward to making all the information public that's been discussed and closed, because I think that the public, once that information becomes available to you, that you'll have a much clearer picture as to the statements that all members of council have made and closed and the information that they have. And you can judge that information by the decisions that they've made. So I support this information coming forward and look forward to it.
Recorded vote has been called by Councillor Garwood.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. And since we can't make a statement during the recorded vote process, I support the information coming back as, or maybe not coming back, but being gathered and presented. I guess that's more along the lines. I think this is unfortunate that we are playing semantics around recorded votes, around accepting information. I say that I don't want there to be a misinterpretation around any one member's position as to where we stand on this. So if I have to say no to receiving a presentation that we just sat there and received because I don't support it, then I guess that's what has to happen. But it's an absolute waste of time and a silly process to do it on something that, well, we can't unreceive a presentation that we just received. But anyway.
Thank you. Not seeing any hands, I will turn to the clerk for the recorded vote, please.
All right, so a recorded vote has been called by Deputy Mayor Cabral. When I call your name, please answer yes or no. Councillor Garwood,
No.
Councillor Alexander,
No.
Councillor Thomas,
Yes.
Councillor Moore,
No.
Councillor Fisher,
No.
Deputy Mayor,
No.
and Mayor.
No.
Yes.
It's defeated.
Thank you. At this time, we have a quick DC. Are we able to just move that so we can go right to question period? Because I think that's what everybody's looking forward to. Can we move it to after? And then if there's any questions following the DC bylaw, we can just have a second question period. I believe that everybody's here to ask questions, so. Okay. Comfortable with that? So at this time, then we will defer our public meeting for our DC bylaw to after question period. And if there is questions from the public that do arise through that process, we can deal with that at the time. So at this time, we'll move to item 6, members of the public for question period. I will turn to our deputy clerk.
So we do have a full lineup today. First, we have Greg, Henry, Fred, and Sebastian Van Bolderen. Do you want to come up to the mic here? Yes, please. Thank you, and thank you for being here. I've just asked that you hold the mics as close as you can and just state your name and address for the record.
Thank you for having us here today. I'm Greg Van Bolderen. We have Fred Van Bolderen, Audie Van Bolderen, and somewhere running around is Tuna Van Bolderen. We are at 664 Penetanguishene Road, so we are affected by this. As I'm sure a few of you are. I don't want to bore you with what my notes are. My wife and I and my daughter are not able to be here tonight. And we certainly wanted to have our voice heard among with other people. And we don't want to bore anybody with regurgitating what many strong points were said. Sorry if you can hear me still. And much more information than we were ever given, ever heard, all that other stuff. I am very concerned moving forward with what that phase 2 is, what everything is moving forward. We are very connected with the location. We specifically chose that location for its proximity to Barrie, but not being Barrie. Yes, I'm just very concerned with making sure that everything gets taken care of properly, that it's open discussions. I understand that there's a lot of stuff that does happen. There's a lot of nuances into the everything, but we need to make sure that everyone is very well informed along the way, and that really we're not getting screwed, because that's what it sounds like right now. Other than that, there's a lot of people that need to talk. You don't need to hear me ramble on. So thank you very much, and I apologize. We will be getting these kids to sleep.
Absolutely. I hear there's a hockey game maybe too that they might.
It's not the Leafs.
Thank you very much for being
Thank you,
here.
everybody.
And as we continue to move through the process, please don't think you're boring us again. Come back to the open houses, submit your comments in writing, all of that throughout the entire process.
I will be, and maybe I'll be a little, maybe without them.
Thank you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. And thank you, everybody.
Actually, next registered, we have Mike Harris.
So we do. Yeah.
If any questions or guys are related to this, go first. If mine's not directly related. Copy. Thank you.
Oh,
Go ahead.
thank you. So we have a list
we
of,
have a-
list of registered questions. So we go through the list of registered and then we turn it over to the floor. So Mr. Harris had a comment, but it was on something else on the agenda. So he's just offered to move to the next
Thank
person.
you, but we've never registered before. I didn't know we were doing that tonight.
It's actually been part of the process since before you, when you were on council too.
Oh.
All right, then next we have Mary Lynn Atkinson.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak publicly about my concern. I'm just bringing forward the township actual official plan regarding the green belt, which is 24 subsection 4.1. It's been a policy in the plan to restrict new non-farm development within a kilometer of the boundaries of Barrie. This was done, I think, prior to about 96, when Barrie was making a habit of helping itself to income-rich land, particularly on Bayfield. So previously, Georgian Mall, it was Kmart, Walmart, all that strip belonged to Vespra Springwater. And as you know, it's an income-generating property. Uh, uh, 3 years ago, Deputy Cabral mentioned that there was an attempt at an MZO forcing industrial development on the farmland in that Wilson corridor that has also been brought up again today. And likewise, council decided that the greenbelt would be maintained in order to maintain the character of the village, clearly separating urban from city land. So I would urge you to continue that process. Please uphold the plan that we already have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, I forgot. I live at 49 Willow Lane.
Thank you. Next.
Next, we have Christine Nugent.
Christine Nugent, 2687 County Road 92, Elmville, Ontario, LOL1PO. I'm not going to refer to the first question because the shared principles have not been received. And so it was specifically about that. And so I would like to move to my second question. And this is about strong mayor powers. Will this council agree to seek Springwater residents' views through a town hall meeting, a survey, and/or a referendum to determine whether the majority support strong mayor powers that are being used in the Springwater municipality? So that's my request to the council to organize to have Springwater residents have a say as to whether we should be using strong mayor powers. I think that's the elephant in the room today that needs to be addressed.
Yes. And our next question?
We can go back to Mike Harris now.
Hello. That was the most entertaining meeting I've been at. Just want to say thank you for hosting this. I'm sure dealing with public is not the easiest part of your job, and thank you neighbors for being here. I love seeing this. This is very empowering. This isn't directly related to the hot topic of the day, so maybe a nice little change of pace. My question is related to our transportation master plan and mainly on Highway 2627 Bayfield Street. Last time I didn't use any outside resources. This one I'm using two. So the University of Windsor just published study findings this month on distracted driving in specifically school zones. They found that 1 in 5 drivers were distracted. That's 20%. And school zones, that's extra fines extra signs still doesn't seem to make a difference. Main contributor was texting cell phones while driving. And also a relatively new one is distracted by the screens in their cars themselves, which was not an issue back in 2009 when Ontario banned using cell phones in driving. So I feel like this is proof that signs, penalties, bans, enforcement is not effective to making our streets safer. This study also found that larger vehicles, trucks and SUVs, get a false sense of personal safety and therefore partake in more risky behavior. Just some numbers here. 4 out of every 5 vehicles sold in Canada is categorized as a truck or SUV. This month last year, it was 86% of vehicles sold in Canada were trucks and SUVs. So, to sum up, we have distracted drivers, we have more distractions, and we have more risky behavior. So driving out of Barrie towards Midhurst on the outside lane, you could have a vehicle just making 1 or 2 degree change, and that's the difference between life and death for a vulnerable pedestrian walking on the street, as maybe a family going to get ice cream after supper, or perhaps a kid from the isolated neighborhoods off Carson trying to meet up with a friend. It's inadequate to ignore design and just rely on people to make the right decision. It's proven we cannot pay attention to driving all the time. We're not professional race car drivers, so we should take that into consideration when we're designing. The other reference will be CAA, South Central Ontario. They did a survey last year, and with their drivers, more than 60% of participants claimed that they witnessed a gross violation or near collision due to distracted driving. So that's eyes and ears on the road. That's 60%. That's incredibly unsafe. I'll bring up to Bayfield Street. I'm pretty sure everyone in this room does not enjoy driving on Bayfield Street.
I'm just gonna be mindful of the 2 minutes.
How much time I got left?
If we could,
I can talk fast.
thank you.
Okay, so Bayfield Street, they try to squeeze everything together. It doesn't quite work, and it seems like we're just trying to make our own further down the road. It doesn't make sense to do the same thing and expect different results. Intersection of driveways and parking lots on a highway is not safe. We have cars going 0 kilometers an hour in the same space as cars going 70 plus kilometers an hour. They lowered the speed limit from 80 to 70, and I have noticed that, may this be anecdotal, no difference in the average speed of cars. Signs don't work. I know it's Ontario government that deals with the highway, but intergovernmental communication does exist. The main resource that we use is the Transportation Association Guide for Canadian roads. This is a very outdated system, and we're relying it pretty much solely for our Transportation Master Plan. Why are we using this outdated standard and we don't legally have to follow? I assured by calling the Attorney General's Office of Ontario.
Typically, we'd let this keep going, but we do
It's
have
a busy one.
a room full of people.
Get into the next meeting. Thank you.
We'll see you again in 2 weeks.
Sounds good. Thank you.
At this time, council, I would like to have a mover and seconder to extend open our procedural bylaw and amend it to extend question period. Councilors Fisher and Thompson. And
The last registered speaker of the night is John Spring.
thank you. And before Mr. Spring does, can we just have the resolution for that?
The council hereby waives section 8.37 of the procedural bylaw to allow additional questions during question period for this evening's meeting.
Thank you. And that has been moved and seconded. All those in favor? And that has carried. Welcome, Mr. Spring.
John Spring, 2438 County Road 92, Elmville. 2 weeks ago tonight, the mayor used her strong mayor powers to get a mandate to approach the city of Barrie to negotiate an agreement with them regarding the annexation of Springwater Township land by Barrie. Premier Ford brought about strong mayor powers to facilitate the building of residences and infrastructure needed to support them as fast as possible, as outlined in the strong mayor powers and duties bulletin. My question to the mayor is this: Using strong mayor powers to get a mandate to negotiate with Barrie about annexation of Springwater land does not in any way have a thing to do with building residences and infrastructure in Springwater Township. Therefore, Madam Mayor, could it be said that it was illegal to use strong mayor powers in regards to this matter? I would appreciate your rationale followed by a justification from you as to why you feel that it was not illegal to use strong mayor powers as you did. Thank you.
Yes. Again, and prior to bringing the bylaw forward to council, when that was the utilization of the strong mayors, reached out to the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing to ensure, connected our staff with two of their employees, and I can provide you with their names to ensure that the steps that we were taking were correct. As you will know, there was other strong mayors that used their powers.
Mayor, could I have a written submission to this? Could you give me a written
Yeah. Absolutely.
submission? I think it would be better. I'm having trouble hearing you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
And that is the end of our registered. I don't believe that Mr. Hannah was registered, so I'm now moving on to the audience and inviting the audience to come forward. So that's where I would have the very eager resident come forward to the microphone for the third time. Yes, and then I'll just kind of move through the room as we can, and just when you do come up, Mr. Hannah, the microphones don't pick everything up all that great, and we have people in the back waving their hands. So if you can just pull them close together and state your name and address for the record, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Jack Hanna, 22 Fred Boulevard, Midhurst. First, I'd like to thank all those councilors who spoke up to help and defend us Springwater taxpayers and residents to protect our area and our land. So thank you for that. So I don't make any mistakes. I want to make sure I read this document correctly. I have been told that the mayor and council entering into an agreement to sell Springwater development lands could place the township into jeopardy of a major lawsuit. Major developers that have agreements with the township have made financial contributions, spent millions of dollars to build infrastructure, including water and wastewater plant. Developers have recently prepared documents and prepared growth opportunities and settlement area expansion plans. Those proposals and expenditures were based on decisions by this council and a recent unanimous resolution for developer to proceed. If council's actions are considered as acting in bad faith, contrary to your oath of office and code of conduct, you are placing yourself and us taxpayers in jeopardy. Example, a lawsuit in a similar situation in Agila towards Oroncio was for $165 million. I know litigation, firstly, let me give you an example of what that was about. Simply all that lawsuit for $160 million was because of breach of contract, breach of contractual duties, and breach of good faith. I know litigation is usually not shared with taxpayers. If such a lawsuit is generated against Springwater as a result of the mayor's negotiations with the city of Barrie, the amount could be more than the $160 million. Legal fees alone would be in the thousands. Question, will council commit to notifying taxpayers of any lawsuits so we can consider moving out of Springwater to avoid the resulting major tax increase? Thank you.
Thank you. And the next, I saw this gentleman over to the side here. Come on forward.
My name is Rob Wright. I live at 1007 Sunnydale Road. There has been significant talk about transparency and everything along those lines from, actually, there's the email from you today, Mayor, as well as somebody else. I believe it was, yes, Anita Moore, Councillor Moore there. My concern is that you're currently using a mailer. I've never received a single piece of mail from Township of Springwater with regards to this. This is due to poor postal service. So why are we relying on that, especially when Canada Post is about to go on strike? I only found out about this because of Deputy Mayor's daughter is a friend of mine, and she had sent me a screenshot of a Facebook post. I don't have social media. I don't rely on social media for news. I rely on stuff I get in the mail or on the internet. So are we going to continue to rely on Canada Post, or is there going to be other means? And I don't just mean the website. So.
And thank you for that. And in the correspondence today, I did speak to a notice of motion for later this evening, but we do want to ensure that all avenues of communication is particularly with the city of Barrie, that we are using all the avenues. During the postal strike, we would have to rely on our virtual options. But aside from the postal strike, I'm hopeful that we can make sure that we're utilizing all options. Deputy Cabral?
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. I know that the postal thing, what I'm getting at here is if you haven't received any of them, then there's an issue with them being delivered.
I totally agree,
But I was just gonna suggest that maybe we should have our communications staff member look into it because our other avenue isn't distributed down where you are, which used to be the newspaper, and same deal with them on the postal strike. They're not going to be distributing that either, but we can correct what you're missing out on.
Yeah, because this is the first one that I've been to, and it's only because I moved from Barrie because of crime, drugs, everything like that, and raising a family, investing in this community. I didn't want to be back in Barrie, so.
And I'm just thinking the taxes
and-
went out as well. Mayor Coughlin, maybe we could put something in that to let people know if they're not getting the direct mailer, to let us know.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you.
And the microphone's open. Come on forward. And I'm just going to ask for your name and address, please.
Thank you. You recognize the virgin here. My name is Karen Catling. I'm at 19 Cowdray Park Lane in Midhurst. I'm a medical professional, so I have a great deal of questions. I was actually very insulted by Mayor Nuttall's presentation here. Number one, I would like to negate the assumption that he had a greater response to the hydro outages. Everyone I talked to said it varied. Some were without hydro for up to 5 days in Barrie. So that is his first untruth. And as a nurse that worked in critical care and ICU, back when the huge tornado went through, it did not hit Springwater, it was in Barrie. And historically speaking, any tornado that goes through has the same path. So that is something I negated with him when he spoke of helping us with, a tornado that went through. We handled the ice storm far greater than they did. And the other thing is, what about our health care? If we are going to have more people in this population, when we cannot deal with what is here already, I know they're talking about having a new hospital in Barrie and Aurelia. I work in both hospitals. We're not dealing with our current population. So even though they're talking about businesses, there's going to be, where are those people going to live that are going to come here and are going to be employed? They're going to be coming to this area. I don't know how he thought we are going to presently handle that much population when we can't foreseeably deal with those that we currently have. And that was just ludicrous when he's mentioned about free parking for the waterfront. Please, how unintelligent does he think we are? I just was angry. So an angry period. The other thing is that I'm under the assumption that everybody here represents us as taxpayers. So we should be made happy as taxpayers. So what would happen if we withheld our property taxes because we weren't happy? That was my thought process. You are here to provide a business. Healthcare people are now looking at healthcare as a business. So if I'm not happy, I'm going to withhold my property taxes. Thank you.
Next question. I have someone joining us and then a gentleman from the back next.
Good evening, Council. My name is Hale Mahan. I'm at 33 Hillview Crescent in Midhurst. I want to just start by clarifying that I'm not speaking on behalf of any organization that I'm part of in Springwater, just as a resident, and also as a student, actually. And I'm a student in public policy and administration at York University in Toronto. And when the topic of a boundary adjustment first came up, I started to look into the academic literature that was surrounding it, surrounding boundary adjustments writ large. And what I found was quite interesting. It was there's been a trend from the start of municipal organization in Ontario up until now, where in the past we used to think of rural areas as sources of land for growing cities, but there's been a trend in terms of how governments are structured, in terms of having regions as opposed to counties and things like that, but also in terms of how rural municipal politicians tend to articulate their concerns. And it's been a trend more towards rural areas and rural municipalities being able to determine their own future and to develop on their own. And so when this came forward, I was curious about it in that context. And so my question, well, I guess my comment is that it seems that the literature seems to support that there is rural determinism. And my question is to assess to what extent council thinks that that is the case and that we should be determining ourselves what we should do and that we should be developing ourselves if that's what we want to determine without the influence of Barry.
Thank you for that. Thank you. Okay. There was a gentleman at the back that there.
My name is Rick Crook. I live at 716 St. Vincent Street. And I've been developing land for 35 years and I've never seen a council so divided. I've never seen a mayor from another township or city come into a council and get attacked. I believe in strong mayor's powers. I believe in development. I've been doing it for a long time, from Mississauga to Midland, for 35 years. I bought a piece of property years ago to develop it, 60 acres, 716 St. Vincent Street. I've got about 60 houses back onto my property. I've had people hang themselves in the trees, set the place on fire, break into my house, you name it. Homeless people living there. I deal with this on an almost day-to-day basis. I watch these things. I watch Anita Moore say, oh, well, that property sold for 20,000 an acre.
And I'm just going to remind you that through formal address, it's Councillor Moore.
Oh, Councillor Moore, I'm sorry. But one side, 20,000 an acre. The people that she represents on the other side, west corner of, let's say Carson Road and Ann Street, 750,000 an acre. Bill Fisher's riding. Councillor Fisher. Rose Corp, 240 acres. The fellow was in here. My land's getting flooded. They did a thing. My land's getting flooded. It's in the newspaper. 500,000 an acre. Out in the middle of nowhere. Russell Road and whatever. 2012. Well, you're in Greenbelt. Well, it's not Greenbelt. It's stroke of the pen moratorium land. That's exactly what it is. It's not Greenbelt. We can kill it as Greenbelt. It's not Greenbelt. It's moratorium land. $4 billion in economic development from Councillor Cabral. Oh, and we're going to lose $6 billion here and $4 billion there. I watched the Midhurst secondary plan roll out. They jumped over the Greenbelt moratorium land where they could have developed, and they developed Russell Road, Craig Road, here, there, listening to people from Elmvale. I'm live in Elmvale and I'm really concerned. I have a neighbor at my cottage. They live in Rosedale. At their cottage, and I have to tell you that I pay more taxes on my cottage than most of these farms pay for 100 acres. They have stopped the 413 at their cottage in Midland. At their house, I went to their house. They have stopped the 413. If they didn't drive up the 400 to go to their cottage, they wouldn't know where the 413 is. It's just frustrating. And you know something? I really feel bad for you, Mayor Coughlin, and I just disappointed. It's very disappointing. And I'll answer your question, Phil. Councillor Fisher. Sure.
And I was mindful Deputy Cabral acknowledged my gesture when he spoke to the last person. I was being mindful tonight to try and make sure that we were receiving questions, that we would write them down and staff would respond to them. So
Sure. I
I
have a lot of questions.
And I appreciate.
I have a lot of questions. I could be here all night.
Well, and
You know,
lucky
all night.
we did waive some of the procedural bylaw, but not
No.
all of it. So
Sure.
we can still, I'm gonna try and keep them concise.
It's frustrating.
And
I'm in
ask-
the yellow, and you know something? It's you have no property rights as a property owner. I already know that. We need housing. We have thousands of units that are approved, and I don't see any shovels in the ground. We did what? How many? 42 building permits last year.
and I
It's owned by big guys, the
Mr.
geraniums, the
Mr.
rose
Cook,
carps.
I'm
you
gonna
know.
interrupt you, and I do appreciate you being
Okay, no
here. And
problem.
I appreciate you showing up to all of these, and as we continue to move forward, continue to have your voice heard.
I will.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
And another question from the back there.
Mayor Coughlin, Roger Cameron. I'm referred to as Mr. Cameron by Mayor Nuttall. I just wanted to say that I met Mayor Coughlin and Mayor Nuttall on Friday at 10 a.m. because nobody had ever come to the farm to ask what her opinion was. And they did come out and I shared my 6 points. The first point is we're a 1,500 acre farm. We're going to lose 550 or 37% of our farm land base if this happens. We do produce a lot of chickens. We produce over 100,000 every 8 weeks. We have 1,200 head of cattle that are finished every year. I don't think you want that in the city of Barrie. I think that is why we're in Springwater, because we're a rural farm and we're in a rural township. I can't speak for all the land that we rent, like the 300 acres we rent. I know everybody. They're great guys. They're developers. They have ambitions, and I won't hold them back because that's who they are. And but the farm too can't have people right on the doorstep because you can't have livestock that close to people. It just doesn't go together. The other thing, we have made significant investments, not knowing something like this would happen. In 2005, 2012, 2019, 2023, each of those years we built a brand new chicken barn to facilitate our farming enterprises. If we knew that the city of Barrie was going to take us over, would we build that many chicken barns? Probably not. We're a generational farm. My granddad, my dad, myself, my 2 daughters are going through school to do farming. And I did ask about the land taxes and that. I wasn't sure I got a real firm answer on that because I think once we get into Barrie, Barrie gets to say after a while, like you can make your deal, but I don't think the deal, it will only last for a certain period of time. And the other thing is when you take the blueprint out and Wilson Drive, it is Class A1 land. And then if it comes down right to our border, we only have about 600 acres right there. What stops them from going and the line just between Snow Valley subdivision, Midhurst subdivision, and Barrie just is gone? Because we're the only people standing, I think, left in that little block that are true, like farmers, right? Everybody else is developers and landowners, and they've had the opportunity to buy it. We couldn't buy it. It's too expensive land, and it's just the way things go. But that's just a bit of who we are. We're a generational farm, and we have a lot of livestock. So that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you. Additional questions or comments? Not seeing any at this time. I think it would be appropriate for council and staff and members of the public. We'll take a break before we move on to the DC portion of the evening. I would like to thank our members of the public for being here this evening. We will encourage you to continue to come out to have your voices heard as we continue to move. I wasn't allowed to say next step. There was something else, but as we continue through this process, please stay engaged and please make sure that we continue to hear your voices. And again, thank you for delivering your questions and comments with respect for our staff and respect for our council. And thank you very much for being here.
Hold on, it's Alexander. Yeah.
Council, may I have a mover and seconder to call the public meeting to order, please? Councilors Thompson and Garwood. That the public meeting of council under section 12 of the Development Charges Act 1997 as amended to present and obtain public input on the proposed development charge bylaw and underlying background studies will be called to order at 9:07 PM. All those in favor? And that has carried. Welcome to this public meeting of Springwater Township Council held in compliance with Section 12 of the Development Charges Act to give the public an opportunity to express their views regarding the proposed development charge GC bylaw and underlying background study. The first part of this meeting will be to present the development charges background study. Following, the public will be given an opportunity to make oral submissions in person or virtually by Zoom. Any persons wishing to make an oral submission must have notified the township prior to noon today, of which there were none, and must have added to the commenters list. At this time, I will turn, oh, sorry. All comments should be addressed through the chair. And at this time, I will turn to the clerk for notice.
Notice of this public meeting was published in the April 24th, 2025 Springwater News. The notice was also placed on the township's website on April 24th, 2025.
Has the township received any correspondence in response to the notice of public meeting?
There have been no items of correspondence received for this development charges bylaw update.
I will now call upon our Director of Finance, Director Bedard.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. The Township of Springwater recently completed a background study necessary to update an oversight in the definition section of the development charges bylaw. The definitions under section 1.43 non-residential and 1.44 other multiples do not fit the intention of the bylaw. Therefore, as required by legislation, a background study was completed to document the necessary changes and to ensure the wording in the development charges bylaw is as intended. The background study advising of these changes, made in the form of a staff report, was made available to the public on the township's website on February 13th, 2025. The background study was also presented to Township Council at a regularly scheduled council meeting held on February 19th, 2025. Lastly, the background study is also included on tonight's agenda. In closing, staff look forward to addressing any questions or comments council or the public may have. Thank you.
I will now call upon the clerk to provide the number of people who have registered to ask questions or make comments regarding the building permit fees, development charge fees, review suggested amendments.
There have been no comments registered to ask questions or make comments regarding the proposed development charges bylaw and the underlying background study.
And I will turn to members of the public if there's anyone from the public that wishes to ask questions. Not seeing any, I'll turn to council. Any comments or questions? Not seeing any. Oh, sorry, Councillor Moore.
I just wanted to confirm something. If in our area we were to have a developer propose a long-term care home, do they pay DC charges? Nursing home, facilities like that?
Director Bedard.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. Through you to Councillor Moore. Off the top of my head, I'm not sure. Applications like that would be reviewed on a one-by-one basis. I can certainly follow up with an answer to yourself and the rest of council after this meeting.
Thank you to all who participated in the public meeting with respect to the proposed development charge bylaw undertaking background study and for showing an interest in this matter. May I have a mover and seconder to adjourn the public meeting, please? Councillor Garwood and Deputy Cabral. That this public meeting held under Section 12 of the Development Charges Act 1997 as amended to present and obtain public input on the proposed development charges bylaw and underlying background study now does adjourn. My computer is always off on the time, so that's why I have to keep looking. 9:11. All those in favor? And that has carried. Council, we are now moving on to item 7 of our agenda, which is our minutes. May I have a mover and seconder for the minutes, please? Councillor Alexander and Councillor Moore, that the minutes of council listed here and be approved as presented. 1 is the minutes of the regular meeting of council of May 7th, 2025, and 2 is the minutes of the special meeting of council of May 7th, 2025. Are there any questions or comments on these minutes? Not seeing any. All those in favor? And that has carried. And moving on to our boards and committees, a mover and seconder, please. Councillors Fisher and Thompson, that the minutes of the boards and consider committees listed herein be received as information. And we have minutes of the Huronia West OPP Detachment Board Committee meeting of February 12th, 2025. Any questions on these minutes? Council, all those in favor? And that has carried. We're now moving on to item 8.1, and this is the resolutions in opposition to strong mayor powers. And we have multiple lines missing. And I will turn to the clerk.
We have from the town of Tillsonburg, town of Saugeen Shores, town of Amherstburg, Township of Rideau Lakes, Township of Kingsville, which were items 1.6, 1.8, 1.12, 1.15, and 1.16 on the April 17th, 2025 council information package. Also, town of Tecumseth, town of Essex, town of Petawawa, municipality of South Huron, municipality of Blue Water, town of Deep River, items 1.1, 1.7, 1.9, 1.11, 1.14, and 1.16 on the May 2nd, 2025 council information package, and the city of Stratford, town of Cobalt, town of Bloomington, Wyoming, and municipality of North Perth, items 1.2, 1.3, 1.5, and 1.11 respectfully on the May 9th, 2025 council information package.
Thank you. I have that moved by Councillor Fisher, and I'm looking for a seconder, please. Councillor Moore, and I'll turn to Councillor Fisher.
Yeah, I just wanted to have this brought to everyone's attention. The preceding municipalities actually all oppose the strong mayor's powers, something that I've been very vocal on. It does not serve the municipality well. It does not serve our people well to have one individual on any council with an abnormally weighted power. I don't think, excuse me, as one person said, it really is the elephant in the room tonight and the reason we are all here. I don't think the province can properly vet hundreds of people who have run for an election and won, but the vetting process is very low. And I think not one individual should have that amount of power. Anyway, I actually turned to our mayor tonight and I implore you, would you relinquish your strong mayor's powers and delegate it back to council?
No.
I figured as much.
Comments or questions, Deputy Cabral?
Just can't resist, Mayor Coughlin. Would you consider relinquishing your strong mayor's powers in relationship to the CAO position and pass them back to the CAO for governance of the operational matters of the township?
The organizational structure component?
No, basically running the operations of Springwater Township as a CAO should be doing, but that's something that you would have to give back to them.
And I think the first step in that would be having a conversation with an interim CAO, and I can have that conversation with Director Bedard, but at this point, we don't have a CAO.
In all fairness, Mayor Coughlin, maybe it's something to consider when we do hire a new CAO at some point in time when the recruiting process is completed. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything further? Those been, and I'm assuming that right now it's only to receive it, but I'm assuming the will of council is that they would like this to be endorsed and supported, or is it we're receiving it? Okay. And to receive, council, all those in favor? And that has carried. We are now moving on to item 9.1, Elmville BIA, regarding request to use Elmville BIA reserve funds. May I have a mover and seconder for this, please? Councillors Garwood and Alexander, that the memo from the Elmville BIA regarding a request to use the Elmville BIA's reserve fund be received for information. Councillor Garwood?
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. In conversations with staff, I was advised that should our boards and committees, or again, groups like the Elmville BIA, have a reserve account, have a reserve balance, and require the use of that reserve outside of adjustments at year end, then a memo would formally need to come forward to council for approval to utilize a portion of that reserve. The Elmville BIA, as many folks know, I sit on it as our council representative. The Elmville BIA does represent businesses within a set boundary in the Elmville community. We also have associate memberships that fall outside of that boundary. The Elmville BIA in 2014 took over operations of the Elmville Farmers Market. This is the second year of said market. And at the March 20th, 2025 Elmville BIA meeting, which occurs every fourth Thursday in Elmville, the board did pass a resolution to authorize a one-time contribution, or I shouldn't call it a contribution, a one-time use of a total of $5,000 to be pulled from the Elmville BIA's reserve to fund capital expenditures related to the market and other BIA initiatives. Those items would be one-time expenses like tents, branding, signage, etc. The Elmville BIA, for those of you who are unaware of how the funding structure works, receives roughly $270 per eligible address within the BIA's boundary, which equates to a budget of $21,060 annually. This budget, from what I understand, has not been adjusted in the past 13 years. The BIA has a current reserve balance that was unaudited as of December 31st, 2024 of $20,587.15. So the BIA is looking to pull 1/4 of said reserve balance to fund these one-time expenses. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them, and I will be putting forth, I'm assuming the existing recommendation is just to accept, so I will be putting forth an amendment to proceed with approving the request from the BIA.
Any comments or questions on? Not seeing anyone, just look for a seconder for the amendment then, please. I have Councillor Alexander. And the amendment would be read that council approves the Elmville BIA's request to use the $5,000 from the Elmville BIA Reserve Fund. And we're voting on the amendment first. Council, all those in favor? That has carried. And back to the main motion. Anything further? Council, all those in favor? And that has carried. We're now moving on to item 10, which is our action reports, and then a mover and seconder for the Integrity Commissioner Services, please. Deputy Cabral and Councillor Moore. That the report regarding the Integrity Commissioner Services from the clerk dated May 21st, 2025 be received, and that council provides direction as follows. Option 1, that council directs staff to execute a permanent contract with the Arid & Burles LLP for Integrity Commissioner Services, or option 2, that council directs staff to continue with the Arid & Burles LP for the interim Integrity Commissioner Services, and staff be directed to proceed with a formal procurement process for the Integrity Commissioner Services and report back. Any comments or questions on this? Councillor Thompson.
Through the chair to Director Bedard. So Arid & Burles, do we know what their fees are compared to what our Integrity Commissioner Swayze's fees were?
Director Bedard.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. Through you to Councillor Thompson, it's my understanding that Arid & Burles is more expensive than Mr. Swayze. The extent of the cost, if it's not in the report, then I'm not comfortable sharing that at this moment.
Deputy Cabral.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. I guess it doesn't matter what we were being charged before because that service is no longer available to us. I would actually suggest we go with option 2, have interim, and then we'll look to find out who might want to respond to an RFP for those services and find out what everybody's charging and base our decision on that. So that would be my 2 cents.
Thank you. And I would agree with Deputy Cabral. And before I do go to Councillor Alexander, I think it was quite enlightening to learn of the contract ending with Mr. Swayze and not directly from Mr. Swayze. I also find it interesting that an Integrity Commissioner can simply pass a file on to someone they choose without any consideration of the township's financial constraints or choice. So I would be mindful and hopeful that we can move forward with the proper procurement process. Councillor Alexander.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. I don't disagree with any of the statements that were made here. I do think we do also have the ability. There was a motion on the floor last year in which we did go through the procurement process in case we wanted to move away from Mr. Swayze, as there was some concern from members of this council of what we were getting charged for and the amount of hours. So if it was be possible to have that presented back to us, we may have to go out again anyways, but just to get an idea, because I believe there were 3 options that came forward from that procurement process, if my memory serves correct.
Thank you. And I'll just turn to Director Bedard. That information can absolutely be shared with council, but if there was an offer from the 3, would we reach back out to them, or that would just go through the same process again?
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. The previous direction was a matter in closed, I believe.
No. And that's fine. And out of absolute respect for the position that the chair that you're sitting in this evening, this is previous information. We can bring that forward to at the request of Councillor Alexander, but the direction that staff is seeking tonight is to go through the procurement process, and I don't believe the intent is that report to hold that up in conjunction with. Okay. So option 2 has been presented, and I have the mover and seconder. I was confirmed with the mover and seconder. Who was that I had?
Deputy Cabral.
Deputy Cabral and Councillor Moore, and you're fine with option. You both spoke to option 2, so. All right, so council, we do have option 2 before us. Anything further on that? All those in favor? And that has carried. Moving on to item 12 is our information reports. May I have a mover and seconder for the information reports, please? Oh, action reports? What did I miss? Sorry. Oh, all of those. Out of order, my apologies. Usually got this down. There we are. Thank you. Item 11, action reports. A mover and seconder, please. Councillors Moore and Fisher. The action reports item 11.2 through 11.6 be received, and that the recommendations contained therein be approved as presented. We have 11.2 in its ADHS donation funds. 11.3 is our award of the 2025-07 RFP wide area more. 11.4 is the transportation master plan. 11.5 is the Elmville Village Phase 2 request for extension of draft approval. And 11.6 is the residential unit bylaw update. I have 11.2 pulled. Are there any other items that council wishes to pull for redirection? We can comment aside. Councillor Moore?
Just a comment.
Comment?
Just a comment then, 11.4 with the Springwater Transportation Master Plan. Mr. Harris has been here for several weeks voicing his concerns, and I definitely want to take notice and respect your input, especially, and noted, wondering if you've had conversations with staff, though, about your concerns and if you've had feedback on what could be changed or not changed.
And apologies, I actually do need to go to staff for that. But yes, there's been dialogue. So Director Harvey, I know, and I do have Manager Edinburgh here. So Director Harvey?
Yeah, I would defer to my manager capital infrastructure because Dan's been dealing directly with Mike, but I'm aware as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin, and thank you, Mr. Harris, for your questions. We have had some dialogue back and forth. There was 2 PICs held as part of this project, one in late 2023 and one in 2024. We have had residents brought concerns or questions forward at those times. Our consultant has addressed them. We did bring forward the presentation last month there for further comments from residents or council. We have had conversations with Mr. Harris regarding the active transportation concerns that he has outlined, in particular on Bayfield Street, which we were outlined our response there last week, that the township does have limited jurisdiction over that provincial highway. There was other concerns regarding the paved shoulders as active transportation, and I've outlined, as per OTM Book 18, they are identified as active transportation facilities. So
There has been dialogue back and forth. We have offered a meeting to sit down with planning and with ourselves as well for further dialogue as well.
Councillor Moore?
Thank you. Thank you for that. As this, and I'm sure, Mr. Harris, you're aware the report is set to be approved for this, for the action report. So just making sure that your comments have been heard loudly, and if not, please reach out to council.
Any comments on any of the other items? We do have the EDHS donation funds to be pulled. Not seeing anything further, so this would be approving items of 11.3 through 11.6 with the exception of 11.2. Council, all those in favor? And that is carried. And I will turn back to 11.2. And I mover and seconder for this, please. Councillor Garwood and Councillor Moore. That the report from the Director of Parks and Recreation and Facilities regarding the EDHS donation funds dated May 21st, 2025 be received, and that the bylaw for the terms and reference for the EDHS donation fund ad hoc committee be presented at the May 21st, 2025 regular meeting for consideration, and that council hereby appoints George Allen as the community member at large and the ad hoc committee, and that Councillor Gurr would be appointed as the committee as the council representative. I will now turn it to council for comment. Councillor Garwood.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. And before I dive into this one, I wanted to thank Director Culver and Manager Dean for many years of work on this matter. Just a bit of background here. Understanding that the EDHS fundraising initiative was and continues to be such a successful partnership between the school and the municipality and the community. But as we started this term, many questions were posed often to Councillor Alexander and myself, understanding that the majority of students that attend EDHS fall from within wards 1 and 2, this side of Horseshoe Valley Road. So naturally, those questions came forward. A lot of those questions stemmed from, it's wonderful that these funds were raised, but they do no good sitting in a bank account. But at the same time, the funds need to be dispensed appropriately, at the will of the community, those that initially provided said donations, while also understanding that the final authority to dispense those funds, whether I agree with the original process or not, comes down to council approval. I'm a strong believer that the decision should be in the hands of our community, and hence, after I believe Councillor Alexander and I brought this initiative forward, we're now working towards formalizing that working group. So again, I wanted to thank staff for the initial report that I believe came last year, which provided a significant background summary. So council was fully aware. Again, multiple councils have come and gone since the project started. Not to rehash the past completely, but again, this would outline a structured process. Now, there's two things that I want to mention. From within the report, the committee would comprise of one member of council, which the recommendation does recommend the Ward 1 councillor, one member of the community at large, which again, the recommendation is Mr. George Allen, who really was the driving force, one of the driving forces behind the initiative initially, and continues to have significant involvement. One member of the Elmville District High School staff, and one Simcoe County District School Board staff member, and those are to be determined. Understanding that that's the working group comprised, the goal of the working group would then be to review potential requests for funding. There is, again, from the last I can recall, and staff can confirm the number exactly, but north of $200,000 still sitting there to be utilized for the school and community purpose. I would like to make a slight adjustment. I would like there to be a second member of the community incorporated into the committee, and that we seek out an application opportunity, understanding there has been significant feedback from folks that might want to participate. And then secondary to that, being mindful that we can't have quorum at these meetings, I would also recommend the Ward 2 councillor also participate in the discussions, understanding it's been a collaborative effort to date so far.
Thank you. So we have an amendment being put forward. And I will just ask the clerk to read it, please.
That council hereby amend the terms of reference as followed, to add 2 additional members to the ad hoc committee, to add an additional community member at large and seek out application through the appropriate process, and to add an additional Ward 2 councillor to the membership complement.
And is it gonna, well, okay. I was gonna say, does it make a difference? It says Councillor, Ward 2 councillor, it was consistent. It was Councillor Garwood ahead, so just Councillor Alexander. Council, any comments or questions on that? And I guess we should actually ask if, I'm sure that the two of you discussed this before it was brought forward, so just ensuring that your willingness to participate.
Quick comment, because I know we've been here forever tonight. Yeah, Councillor Garwood and I have discussed this, as you mentioned. We've been discussing this since we started this term, and very, happy to see this program so successful. I was completely willing just to support as is, but very honored that Councillor Garwood did approach me and to see if I would like to sit on it, because I would like to sit on it. So thank you for inviting me.
Of course.
Fantastic. All right. Oh, and Deputy Cabral.
Thank you. I don't have a problem with it. I think it makes all the sense in the world to have Ward 1 and Ward 2 because the cutoff's Horseshoe Valley Road. However, one of the things I did want to clarify, and I know there'll have to be a couple of corrections here so that it doesn't say 4, it says 6. But I just wanted to ensure, and I did speak with Councillor Garwood about it, that my understanding is that it's going to be the committee that looks at and refines, just to be short, but it comes back to council for approval. So I just want to make sure that that's the process and I'm not mistaken. So thank you.
Councillor Garwood.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. And just to the Deputy Mayor's question, yes, absolutely. I think, again, while some might disagree that council has to be that final decision maker, it's also understanding that any financial contribution that leaves the municipality obviously needs to go through this council. So from a procedural perspective, I completely agree with that. Mayor Coughlin, maybe through you to either Manager Dean or Director Culver. I'm not sure if staff have any comment or question from this, understanding it's been a significant staff project. So I wanted them to also have an opportunity to speak on the matter, should there be one.
Anything further, Director Culver?
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. Yeah, certainly pleased the councillor engaged with the process. We took some time to kind of understand what the need was and try and create a simplified process. Certainly the added bodies doesn't change that at all. We have had several conversations with the high school, so we do have a prepared list to bring to the ad hoc committee. In the early days, it doesn't exhaust the fund, but it gets us started on moving the money into action.
Great, that's exciting. Councillor Garwood?
Sorry, one last thing. This is kind of my thing, so I like to talk about it. I also, while we're speaking of the facility, and Councillor Alexander touched upon it, is the importance of what reopening that facility in the community post-COVID has done, not just for the Elmville community, but again, for all of Springwater. I know we've had some numbers provided from a staff perspective last year. I know those numbers continue to grow. We continue to receive questions and comments on how can we expand, how can we continue to improve. The community just thinks the world of the opportunity, the staff that are there, the work that they do. So it's such an important space in our municipality and such a great partnership and a perfect example of how we can partner on something like that, a facility like that, without having to own it.
Thank you. So council, we will be voting on the amendment first. So the amendment is to add the 2 positions to the committee. All those in favor? That has carried, and we are back to the main motion as amended. I don't think we need to read it again. All those in favor? And that has carried. Moving on now to our information reports. May I have a mover and seconder, please? Councillors Fisher and Moore. that the reports listed herein be received for information. We have one is our monthly building service report of April 2025, our bylaw activity report of April 2025. 3 is the ministerial delegations for the 2025 AMO conference. And number 4 is the deferral of the Bishop Park Bridge. And I have number 4 being pulled. Council, is there any others to be pulled for redirection? Any comments or questions on the remaining items? Not seeing any. Did I get a mover and seconder? Oh, perfect. All those in favor? That has carried, and we move back to item number 4. And a mover and seconder for that, please. I have Councillors Alexander and Garwood, and I'll turn to Councillor Garwood.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. And again, similar to the last report, I wanted to thank Director Culver and Manager Dean for bringing this report forward. This, not to give too much backstory here, but the bridge that connects Heritage Park and Bishop Park, some call it the Ritchie family bridge because it was donated by the Ritchie family back in the early 2000s, is about 23 years old. And the bridge could use a bit of love. It's seen some better days from a perspective of at least a visual perspective, but of course, rust and wear and concern, etc. This was something that I did bring to staff, and we've had significant conversations in through last year in preparation for the budget. There was a $30,000 price tag associated with a refurbishment of the bridge for 2025. Understanding that the estimates now for that bridge have exceeded the $30,000 and hence the report from Director Culver. And I appreciate him being transparent and bringing that back for council's consideration. A couple pieces here. Regardless of when the bridge is done, whether it be this year or it's deferred to next, there will be a significant timeline where the bridge will have to be physically removed from its location for the work to be completed and then returned back as it is over the Wye River currently that flows through Heritage and Bishop Parks respectively. Understanding the recommendation is to postpone this to 2026 with the work to be completed and I believe finished by 2027. I suspect roughly that to be the case. I have spoken to Director Culver on this matter and understanding there are significant competing projects. I wouldn't say competing, but in unison projects that are happening across our municipality right now. And there is only so many staff to be able to manage this type of project. At the same time, I have pressed the importance of continuing this project forward, especially in 2025. Heritage Park is celebrating its 25th anniversary, so I think it's only fitting that the work is completed, hopefully at least this year in preparation for next. I will, of course, will open it up for questions and would like Director Culver's opinion as well, but I would like to present a amendment to fund the project in 2025 to an upset limit of $45,000. So currently there's a $30,000 price tag attached to it. It would be a required additional $15,000. And in conversation with the interim deputy CEO and director of finance would be to draw those funds from the tax capital reserve fund.
Thank you. Before I go to members of the council, I'll turn to Director Culver for comment.
Thanks, Mayor Coughlin. So we've when staff arrive at a project threshold that indicates a 50% increase in the pricing, we feel like it's responsible to bring it back to council to say we've not hit the mark that we anticipated when we set the budget guideline in place. So that's really why this report has appeared in the first place. The bridge is otherwise sound and stable and not structurally compromised in any way. So it wasn't a risk to indicate a deferral to 2026. Having said that, and in conversation with Councillor Garwood, taking a look at the project plan, we can work with it. We had anticipated having this work this year, and we've moved our way down the project pathway to a point where we understand what's needed more than we did when we set the price for budget. So it is possible for us to proceed. I won't promise it being done in 2025, of course. It's more likely to be returned to place in 2026. But the big work to be done now is to work out an RF process that properly procures the services needed to do the remediation and refurbishment. So we can work on that sort of towards the end of the year and look for hopefully to have the bridge restored in place in 2026 should council approve Council Garwood's amendment.
Deputy Cabral and then Councillor Garwood.
Yep, thank you, Mayor Coughlin. I actually would like to see it continue forward, even if it's installed next year. However, I would like to know are we in a position to allow residents to use it for the course of the summer, take it out in the fall and have all that work done so that it can be replaced at the beginning of the summer in 2026? That would be my concern. I'd hate to see it removed and not go back. So if we could get the bulk of the summer out of the way, then we could get use out of it. The residents could enjoy themselves down there and then get it done so that we can immediately put it back in, May or April of next year. Thank you.
Director Culver.
Through you, Mayor Coughlin. Yeah, that's exactly where we've arrived. When we set the project parameters out in the first place, we didn't anticipate it having to be removed. We thought there would be a way to protect the creek while the remediation occurred. Having said that, it will need to be removed. So in looking forward to 2026, we actually anticipated it being a late year project in order to disrupt the use of the bridge as little as possible. So in expediting it to 2025 with increased funding, we'd be looking at sort of a late year project in order to allow the summer use. Now, this is all subject, I should say, to not having secured a vendor or worked out a project plan, but that would be our intention going forward.
So we have an amendment being proposed by Councillor Garwood, and I will read that and then ask for a seconder. That staff be directed to proceed with the Bishop Park Bridge project in 2025 with an upset limit of 45,000 to be funded from the Tax Capital Reserve Fund. And I seconder for that, please, Deputy Cabral. Are there any further comments or questions? All those in favor? And that has carried. Council, at this time, we're moving on to items. Oh, skipped again. Oh, the motion as amended.
No, that's fine. Sorry, I'm talking about the extending the adjournment before you get into your verbal comments.
Great. Council, I need a mover and seconder to extend the adjournment for the meeting until 10:30. Councillor Fisher and Councillor Moore, all those in favor? And that has carried. And we'll now move into our verbal reports. And County? We're looking for a development question on an update on a development. So Director Harvey, go ahead.
Thank you. Just give me a moment, please, Mayor Coughlin. I need to bring up my information, but this is something that has come up. As a matter of fact, I see that Mr. Beer is here. It's in discussion with him at the town hall. He was showing me some issues out on the map, pointed out that the drain pipe was supposed to outlet onto the Matheson Creek at the north end of Gill Road and not supposed to affect any of the resident properties along Gill Road. Alluded to the fact that Rose Corp had initially told him a few years ago that the cost was $3 million to install that, and today the cost is supposed to be $10 million. And he's feeling that maybe what they're doing is looking for a shortcut and some cost savings, and installed the pipe up the middle of Gill Road and stopped it at the corner of Gill Road and Craig Road. He's indicated that his feeling is that they need permission from the township to run the pipe west along the old road allowance and dump water on the edge of the hill, which it ends up dumping it onto his property, and that's where it ends up going. And he's seen an increase in the water flow. He's seen damage to his property to the point where he does have a riding school or a horse training school there, and that's being affected detrimentally to the point where business is not happening. Anyway, I guess the question that I want to ask is, the water issue is ongoing and long-term damage to the property, but what is the plan for that pipe? Because it seems to me that where Matheson Creek is and where it's discharging now is two different places. So I'm hoping that you can provide or enlighten me on where the pipe's actually supposed to outlet. Is it outletting in the correct place? Is this a short-term location where it's being outletted? Is the final plan to be like on the subdivision plan there where it was coming out one end and basically flowing into the creek? So I'm asking this question on behalf of Mr. Beer, who I see is right here. So if you could answer or at least provide some information on that, it'd be appreciated. Thank you.
Yeah. Through you, Mayor Coughlin, to the deputy mayor, and we have had discussions with Mr. Beer as well. And what I proposed is a lot of this needs to be resolved through the developer and their consultant. So right now, I spoke to Mr. Beer as well and to Councillor on it, that there will be a meeting to discuss this. I think it's best that council and them come forward and their developer to outline the historical perspective, how we ended up here. Staff have had a number of the same questions, but if you recall, Deputy Mayor, in December of 2023, Rose delegated here before council and got approval to put the pipe down the unopened Craig Road allowance from council at that time. And they responded to a number of these questions already, and that has been in previous staff reports. So, but I think it best to have a meeting, have the people there who proposed this, got the approvals for it, and have that discussion with the landowners as well as council.
Thank you. And this is being arranged then? Thank you, Mr. Harvey.
Yeah, through you, Mayor Coughlin, yes, that's what's happening right now. And we got a report on Friday evening, and I want to share that with council as well as Mr. Beer, that the NVCA did and the developer did as it results in what his concern is.
Councillor Fisher?
Through you to Director Harvey, if council, if it was brought forward to council, it was generally, and we voted on it, it's generally at the recommendation of staff. I'm under the impression, and correct me if I'm wrong, according to the NVCA, that a drainage pipe from the developer, the exit, the outflow can go onto their property or onto our property if we have given them permission. Is that what happened previously? Did Springwater give permission to the developer to drain in such a manner?
Director Harvey?
Yeah, through you, Mayor Coughlin. That's my understanding in the December 2023 delegation, is that council approved that based on the information provided at that time from the NVCA and as well as the Ministry of Environment. And that was done in December of 2023.
And for clarification, I think it's important to note that the so-called natural drain or water course, I believe is called, the information provided to council is that we were exhausting into a river. And I apologize for being naive, but that was the information. And after being to the property and seeing this, I think the argument becomes, is it a natural water course or is it simply their property? And that to me is where I think this council, or where we might be able to continue conversations. I do have Councillor Fisher and then back to Director Harvey.
Yeah, in addition to that, it's my understanding that the project is not done as of yet, right? Because there is the question of open cut or a directional drill that has not been determined yet. But my worry is this: if the problems are happening according to the landowner, and I think we have all actually been out to the property. If the problems are persisting now, will this rectify the problem, or would it exacerbate that problem? And that's something I really need answered, right? So I don't expect you to have the answer right now, but I definitely think it's come, as the mayor said, as a recommendation from staff to move ahead with it in 2023. But I think we're seeing some issue with it, right? So I'd like to know exactly what the outcome is and how we plan to go forward with this.
Thank you. And I do appreciate Director Harvey's understanding from many emails from many members of council and the public that this is something that we want to come back to us. And I think that also it's important to note that not only a recommendation of this council, but approved by the ministry as well. So it was not just simply an error on staff. So I don't want that communication. That's not what we're saying here. We want to take another look at this. So.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Any other, nope. What go county update?
Yeah, just a
County
couple
update.
items. Just a couple of items, especially since one is applicable this particular week. It's National Paramedic Services Week, and it's recognized annually to honor the professional paramedics in Canada who provide vital emergency medical services. Location recognition of the week facilitates efforts to inform and educate the public about the paramedic profession, as well as relevant public safety and health information across Canada. So Paramedic Services Week is happening right now, May the 18th to May the 25th. So there's information at the county level there. And anyway, it's good to be able to recognize the wonderful work that our paramedics do. I wish we could provide them more ability and more equipment, but they do a fantastic job. The other issue that was there that was rather interesting was in respects of the tariff situation. And the item that they brought forward was to look at the rapidly changing and ongoing tariff and counter-tariff activity occurring between the U.S. and Canada, and staff efforts to be able to monitor the impacts and the procurement activities underway to support the provincial procurement restriction policy to restrict United States businesses from accessing public sector procurements in Ontario. And I might add that this particular report might be worthwhile for our own procurement office to look at, because since it is a provincial restriction policy, I would think that it probably would be something that we should be looking at. And Mayor Coughlin, through you, maybe I should actually ask interim's deputy CAO, I apologize. A lot of talking tonight. If he's aware of this policy.
Director Bedard?
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. Through you to Deputy Mayor Cabral, the specifics of what you're speaking about at a general level, we're following, and we've been following the tariff implications since it was announced. So it's something we're considering.
Municipal updates? Councillor Fisher?
Mine is actually more of a question through you to Director Harvey. When the bollards were ordered for our wards, it seems to me, it's been communicated to me that the bollards, for instance, on Doran Road, there was only one set that was ordered. I know you and I talked about this briefly, and I actually talked to Councillor Garwood, who brought forward this motion with me some time ago. Excuse me. How do we get more bollards? Because I think it was obvious that a set of bollards, 3, right, on a road like Doran, on Pools, on Belmont, that will not suffice, right? And it was my understanding when I talked with staff multiple times about this, including our former CAO, that we were going to put them in strategic locations, right, down, which cannot happen when it's one set. So can we get more bollards for those roads? And then my second question is also related. As you know, I've emailed you about speed cameras. Can we speak to why we're engaged with ESSA on a legal issue? I don't really understand, because I don't really know why we're engaged with them. That was never part of the process previously when the motion first came forward. This has been news to me, but it's nearly 2 years actually since that speed camera motion came forward. I can tell you in Midhurst, Midhurst, and frankly in Ward 4, I have constituents call me there, friends of mine. Speed is an issue as we grow, and I'm not coming down on anyone's staff, but only one set of bollards, 2 years waiting for speed cameras. I get calls a lot saying, "Hey, we saw it in the paper 2 years ago." So, what are we doing, and when can we get them? And yeah, anyway.
And thank you. I'll separate those. So I think the first one is we can have a notice of motion during the period that we will bring forward that we're going to purchase it. And sorry, we'll ask for an update on both the bollards and on how and why ESSA became involved with, thank you.
Through you, Mayor Coughlin, to Councillor Fisher. So the first on the bollards, my understanding is that would have to come back to council for a motion. There was an equal part, if I'm correct, as it relates to bollards and the allocation of them in each ward. So council would have to give a motion and then staff would act on the procurement of those additional bollards. So if council wishes that, they should give us that direction. And I'll defer to Manager Eberhardt as it relates to the ASC and the cameras.
Manager Eberhardt?
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin, and through yourself to Councillor Fisher. I believe it was in late 2023 that we had a notice of motion from council to report back on automated speed enforcement and the program in itself. Staff, I don't have the dates in front of me here, but staff brought back a report in early 2024 outlining multiple different avenues as an option report that we could undertake, whether that was sole sourcing, a trial period, or going out for a public RFP. Council opted to go with a public RFP, knowing that that would take additional time to prepare that request for proposal, review the evaluations, and get up and running with that. It was brought forward back to council once that RFP was written in November, I believe it was, of 2024, outlining the proposals we received and our recommendations. Council approved authorization to award to the recommended vendor, which we have been working with since to get the program up and running. As outlined in that staff report, I believe we said it would be operational, I believe we said in September of 2025. There has been a few challenges that we've kind of been working through, so we don't expect it to be September of 2025, but hopefully by the end of 2025 is kind of where we're looking at. There is quite a few different challenges with the multiple OREGs and the different agreements that need to be in place. To the specific question of ESSA Township, as outlined in that November 20th, 2024 staff report, the vendor that we secured was providing the cameras and the camera services. However, the joint processing center would be handled by ESSA Township. So that is the agreement with ESSA Township as it relates to automated speed enforcement. Thank you.
Councillor Fisher?
Is there any way to expedite the process? I mean, it's and not to rag on the subject, but that will mark 2 years from motion to inception. It's 2 years of increased traffic, 2 years of people and rightfully so complaining about speeding in our area. This was meant to be a good traffic calming measure. Anyway, is there any way to expedite this process and maybe have it sometime this summer?
Manager Eberhardt?
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin, through yourself to Councillor Fisher. Short answer to that is no. There was multiple agreements we need with the Ministry of Transportation, with the Ministry of Attorney General. There's a warning period. There's a lot of back end work we have to do with relations to the communication side, the payment portal, the processing of all the data. So the short answer would be no. Thank you.
Councillor Moore?
Thank you. I'd like to, through you, Mayor Coughlin, I'd like to ask Director Culver how the Weeduke Dadwin Lookout openings are going.
Director Culver?
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. So my involvement in the openings has not initiated yet. I did talk to the principal with the Friends of Weeduke Dadwin, and he indicated June 1st would be when they'd be looking for our support. So I have a sign-up list prepared. I think communication will be going out to staff tomorrow or this week to get sign-up started to help distribute the workload of opening the gates. And I have an email actually prepared to send to you that will talk about looking for staff to come back on June 4th, I think, or the next council meeting to provide some insights and information on the possibility of adding automation to the process and the costs that be involved in that. So as of right now, not a lot of movement, but in terms of actually going and unlocking a gate, but there is a lot of preparation in play.
Follow on?
I just want to say thank you so much for being cooperative and trying to find solutions and not barriers. And please circulate the list to council too, because I'd be happy to put my name on there.
Any other further municipal updates? Councillor Garwood?
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. Just three things I wanted to mention. First being the Elmville Community Recreation Association will be hosting a Elmville Community Garage Sale on May the 31st. I think there's 25 plus different homes that have signed up so far. So you can go on the ECRA Facebook page, sign up, add your address to the list. A map will go out and folks can spend the day walking around the community. While we're still a ways out, I wanted to mention this a month from tonight, which will be June the 21st. The Elmville Ballpark Committee, again, this council is familiar with it, will be officially lighting the park, which is pretty exciting. Township of Springwater provided a $35,000 donation from the Springwater Hydro Reserve Fund months ago. Additionally, the mayor, the deputy mayor, and myself also provided contributions from our discretionary funds. The lights have been fully installed. They have been turned on. They are operational, which is wonderful, ahead of schedule, I may add. And 7 p.m. on June the 21st, we're going to have a couple games of ball and community food and whatnot. So all of council is, of course, invited, and I encourage you to participate. July the 1st, which I know we're still over a month away. We are throwing it together quickly, but again, 25th anniversary of Heritage Park coincides with Canada Day. So to not step on Phelpston's activities in the evening, we will be having a 1 to 4 o'clock barbecue at Heritage Park. An opportunity to come out, play some long games, walk the trail, and learn a bit of history about the park and how it came to be, which is pretty neat. And listen to some good live local music and have a hot dog and hamburger. So again, I encourage all the council to participate if you're around between 1 and 4, and the public, of course.
Not seeing any other municipal updates. Any notices of motion? Councillor Moore?
Thank you. So we will revisit then our motion from earlier, if that's okay. Do we need to do a waiving of procedural bylaws? Do we need to do that more professionally, or can I just go ahead?
Are you looking to have this voted on this evening?
Yes,
Then we would require to,
waive procedural bylaw then.
all right, clerk. So council, I'm looking for a motion to waive the procedural bylaw. Councillors Fisher and Moore. And we spoke to earlier as to the intent of this is the direction to staff. And Councillor Moore.
Thank you. So I am
My
looking.
apologies.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Yes.
Thank you.
I know it's late. Sorry.
Councillor Moore.
Thank you. So the motion I'm looking to put forward is to send information to Quinto Annabelle. What I'd like included is our resolution, our unanimous resolution we passed dated May 5th. The reports received on May 15th from the Midhurst Landowners Group, our Hempson report, and if anybody else would like to chime in and add, I see your hand is up. That's what's important to me. Thank you.
Thanks, Mayor Coughlin. I seem to think there was a mention of waiting on the Watson report. I don't know if that's ready or
We
not.
have the Watson report.
We already have that? Then that should go as well.
Okay, so and the Watson report.
Yes, thank you.
And without speaking to items from closed session, the information from the consultant we received in closed session would form part of that information.
Excellent.
Councillor Thompson?
Would there be an upside to the cost of this?
I'm not familiar with the billing, but I think that this is, I don't know. I can report back. I don't know what the upside, I don't know. I wouldn't even know what number to put in there because I don't know what. Councillor Moore?
Thank you. So Mr. Annabelle's on retainer. And so we have not used him as far as I know, or just once, maybe. Just once he was here. I don't know what the retainer was, but there may be some room within that too. And I'm not sure that that's, a consideration at this point.
Follow on Councillor Thompson and then to Councillor Garwood.
My only concern is that we've spent a lot of money, taxpayer money on this already, and we've had a lot of legal opinions and expert opinions and consultants' opinions, and we really haven't followed their advice, so I'm not sure that getting more advice that we're not going to follow would be beneficial to our taxpayers.
So before us, and I think, how can we word this so that we can have input from Director Bedard to ensure that we're not, like, right now, we're just going from memory, what information we've received in the last couple of years. I don't want anything to be missed. I want to ensure that legal gets our entire package. So could it read with those things specifically, and then to add, and any additional information council has received as part of the discussion, so that they get everything?
Yes, sorry. Most importantly, I'm not even sure if I said the City of Barrie proposal because it's late. So, but I think that's fair.
I think that the
Yes.
intent has been captured, and
Yeah.
I know that this is, we were voting on it tonight. That's why this is different. Okay. I was just gonna say this can be forming a notice of motion, but I think just if we can have the list, so that the list that was provided by Councillor Moore, and then to have all relevant documents and information provided to Mr. Annabelle for review. And that he be scheduled to report to council in a subsequent meeting. Councillor Garwood.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. So just to clarify, and again, this goes back to what my ask has been for quite some time now, is to ensure that all of the information that has been available, whether it be enclosed, whether it be in public, is, I'm assuming, formulated into some sort of a timeline and document that the public could reference, but also council can reference, so we're not dancing around what is closed and what is open. I think that probably speaks to our collective understanding and wish for transparency. So if that's the direction, then I have no concern with that.
Thank you. Speaker Brown?
I think you've captured it, but we're also including, all of our agendas, the staff reports, the notices and more. Okay, that's all I wanted to make sure, is because if you're giving them the whole package, that gives a chronological order too.
Councillor Thompson?
So just so I'm clear, is that we can give them all the closed stuff to be part of this report?
And I don't know, we can give it to our lawyer because that would be proprietary information. I don't know then, I still don't know the trigger or the mechanism that we just make it public without breaching. The information that we've received, so for example, we've received consultant reports and different information from time to time in closed session. My goal is to make that information public, and I just want to make sure that it goes through the proper avenues. Councillor Moore?
Thank you. The information that we received on May the 15th, is that going to be part of our council information package? I just want to make sure. I know I asked for that, but I just want to confirm with the clerk that that's part of our package. We have it as information at our next meeting. Yeah, I mean, what does council prefer?
I'm sorry, I'm not following. So I'm just gonna ask for clarification on this and then.
The information that we received from the Midhurst Landowners Group, May the 15th, it missed the agenda, unfortunately. So could that then, is that information intended to be part of our council information package that goes out Fridays? Or are you planning to put that on the next agenda as information? Sorry.
I'll go to our deputy clerk.
I would need to see the document. I feel everything goes out, like when we receive it, it gets put on the council information package. So if it was something that we missed, please send it our way. We'll put it out on this package, but I can't recall if that was missed. Sorry.
That's okay. I had asked for it to be put on the agenda, but it was probably too late in the day. So it got missed, that's all. So I'm just curious, does it go then onto the council information package, or does it go information next time? George, you're shaking your head at me.
Just for clarification, I checked the council information package and it was not on there. After, wasn't on in the councilor information package either. So I think the idea is that Councillor Moore was asking for it to be on the agenda. It didn't make it. can we put it on the next agenda, I
Okay.
guess is what we're really talking about.
And I think too that we can, between the two of us at a gender review, we can be mindful, staff has heard this. I don't know that it needs to be part of this because that's not information. You do want that information to go to the lawyer as well?
Absolutely.
Okay, so that and just being mindful that for information to be, that's fine, yes. All right. I think that's all encompassing and we'll leave it with you for drafting. So council, this is not, we have now waived our procedural bylaw to allow us to vote on this tonight. So it, oh, there we are. Director Bedard.
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin, and through to Councillor Moore. So we're just clarification on the expectation for delivering something back to you. So we're collecting information, all information relevant. We're providing it to Mr. Annabelle. And then what's the expectation for the return? Is it an opinion on the matter? Is it a presentation back to council? Just, I want to make sure that we're capturing what your expectation is for the deliverable back.
Thank you for clarification, Councillor Moore.
Thank you. That's, yes, exactly. An opinion back, please.
Thank you. Council, all those in favor? And that has carried. Any additional notices of motion? I will need to pass the chair as I do have one. And then you just ask me back, is there any additional notices of motion?
Thank you, Mayor Coughlin. Is there any additional notices of motion?
Yes, thank you. And it was stemming from the communication today from our residents who are asking for better and more communication surrounding the city of Barrie. And in no way is this a conversation about the Springwater News. What I'm asking is for an exception from the council resolution so that all information about city of Barrie specific be included in the Springwater News, not to reopen a conversation about the council's choice of anything. It's just anything pertaining to the city of Barrie. We've heard loud and clear. We want communication. So I think that it's very important during this one that we use every single avenue in front of us. And I'm going to turn to the clerk because I need a seconder on that. And then because the procedural bylaw has been waived, conversation can happen, correct? I would be looking. No, you have to ask for a seconder.
Sorry. A seconder. Thank you, Councillor Garwood. Now, yes, okay, thank you, Mayor Coughlin. Any comments from council regarding this notice of motion? Councillor Garwood.
Just quick comment. I fully support the initiative. Again, not to bring up the Springwater News discussion once again, but we've consistently spoken at this table about transparency and openness and ensuring that all members of our community, while I understand the Springwater News might not cover every inch of the municipality, there are gaps in regards to residents who have come forward, who have said, I don't have social media. I don't have that information. I don't maybe have that direct mailer right to my door. Might not solve that one matter that came forward tonight, but the Springwater News is probably covered by about 90% of this municipality. So thank you, Mayor Collin, for bringing it forward.
Any additional comments from other members of council? The only comment I would make is I would just like to be sure that what goes in the Springwater News is specific and we're not going to be just spending money to put things out there that aren't necessary. I think in addition to that, I really think that we need to look at where our direct mailer is going, because if people are missing out on it and don't know, then they need to be told that it is available, and we need to work with the post office, because the whole idea of the direct mailer was to capture every single residence in Springwater Township, and that's something that the Springwater News no longer does. But I could live with this particular piece because it is extremely important. So if there's no more comments, I'd like to call the vote. All those in favor? Carried. And I'll turn back the chair to Mayor Coughlin.
Thank you. Are there any additional notices of motion? Any items for future consideration? Mover and seconder for the bylaws, please. Councillor Alexander and Councillor Garwood, that bylaws listed here and be assigned and sealed by the mayor and clerk. 5,406 ZB 2025-003 additional residential unit bylaw update 2025-004 amend development charges bylaw. 2025-045 to appoint the interim integrity commissioner, 2025-046 to establish terms of reference for the Elmville District High School Donation Fund Ad Hoc Committee. Any questions on these bylaws? All those in favor? That has carried. Mover and seconder for the confirmation bylaw, please. Counselor Moore and Counselor Alexander, that bylaw 2025-047 to confirm and adopt the proceedings of council at the regular meeting held on May 21st, 2025, listed here and be signed and sealed by the mayor and clerk. All those in favor? That has carried. And our adjournment, please. Counselors Fisher and Thompson, that the regular meeting of the Township of Springwater does now adjourn at 10:17 p.m. to meet again on regular meeting of June 4th, 2025 at 6:30 p.m. All those in favor? And that has carried. Thank you.